Hey guys! Today we'll be recapping a manhwa called Into the Light Once Again. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It really helps our channel. Thanks. Our story centers around the 5th princess of the Edenbell Empire, Maryanne. Adorable, well-mannered, and friendly, she's basically your textbook princess. When Maryanne smiles, no one can look away. Her golden eyes captivated everyone she came across, and her personality won their hearts. But this story isn't about Maryanne. It's about her sister, Maryanne's perfect opposite in every way. With black hair and green eyes, she isn't adored the way her little sister is, but that doesn't mean she loves her any less. Unlike Maryanne, she has to endure a lot of harsh comments about her appearance. People always compare the sisters, calling her a black crow in comparison to the shining light of Edenbell. But she put up with it for her sister's sake. That is, until the day she was accused of poisoning her. Our protagonist, Alyssa, invited Maryanne for tea on a beautiful spring day, hoping to share some precious tea she'd been gifted as a gift. Before Alyssa could take a sip, blood started to drop from Maryanne's lips, and the next second, she collapsed. You can imagine what happened next. Rumors started flying about the evil Princess Alyssa, who must have been planning this from the start. Alyssa went from outcast princess to shame of the nation to prisoner in a single day. They lock her in a small cell underground and feed her one meal a day with no news about her sister or what would become of her. Then one day, 2 guards appear and lead her through the grounds in chains. After all that time underground, Alyssa is so grateful to see the sunlight that she smiles and mentions how beautiful it is. That really rubs the guards the wrong way, so they throw her inside the throne room where she finds herself staring up at the other members of the imperial family. Uh-oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. Maryanne is there too, thankfully unharmed. Before Alyssa can even express her relief, they're listing off her sentence. Charged with the attempted murder of the 5th princess Maryanne, she is cruelly sentenced to death. Can you believe that? How could a family do such a thing to one of their own? Behind them all, smiling like a devil, is little Maryanne. Did she have something to do with this? The 1st and 2nd princes, Lachias and Elsis del Edenbell, clearly have no sympathy for their younger sister. The 3rd princess, Adelina, looks straight up happy to hear the news, while little Prince Lelis is putting on a brave face. The Emperor, Eulis del Edenbell, asks his daughter if she pleads guilty to her crime. He is thoroughly convinced that she is the one behind the poisoning, and even says it's disgusting that she's continuing to feign innocence. What kind of a father is this guy? Holding back tears, Alyssa struggles to answer. Her sister Adelina steps forward and demands she answer the Emperor, glaring fiercely at her. Is there not one person in this family who cares for her? Even baby Lelis is being harsh. Part of the reason for their unwavering cruelty is that they have a supposed witness to the crime. Next walks in a maid named Rebecca, one of the women who works in Alyssa's palace. She was there on the day they had tea and claims to have seen Alyssa pouring a mysterious white powder into Maryanne's cup. Obviously, that's not true, but whoever is framing her has done a darn good job. They even planted the same powder in her bedroom closet. Alyssa begins to weep, swearing on her life that she never once tried to harm her sister. She turns to her eldest brother, Crown Prince Lachias, looking for sympathy. Instead, she gets a slap. He tells their father not to wait a moment longer and even suggests burning her eyes out before they behead her. What kind of sick little psycho? I can't believe these people. Her father orders the guards to give her nothing but filthy water as they drag her away, setting the date of her execution in 4 days' time. When the day finally arrives, Alyssa isn't totally sane anymore. I mean, can you blame her? Her entire family turned on her and never even let her defend herself. As if that wasn't bad enough, they actually took Lachias' suggestion of burning her eyes. Literally and figuratively blinded by the pain, Alyssa begged Selena, the goddess of the moon and revenge, to give her a chance to get revenge, or at least prove her innocence. And if that's not possible, she never wants to be reborn as a human again. Now, I don't know about you guys, but somehow, I don't think that's going to happen. But Alyssa doesn't seem to get the hint. When she opens her eyes, reborn as a precious baby girl with silver hair and ocean blue eyes, she thinks Selena has abandoned her. At least this life is starting off better than her last one. She's already adored by her maids and family alike, and yes, you guessed it, she's a princess again. This time, she was born as Aisha, the 1st princess of the Elmer Empire, the Edenbell's greatest rivals. The crown prince, little Prince Isis, is already obsessed with her. And who wouldn't be? Her jewel-like eyes and soft silver hair have already earned her the nickname Elmer's one and only star. At this rate, she'll be rivaling Maryanne in no time. Isis tries to make friends with his sister, but that's not an easy task with a 10-month-old baby. Aisha is hesitant to connect with him at first, but she listens intently once he begins to tell her the story of her birth. He always wanted a little sister, but his mother was frail, making it impossible for her to have another child. 2 years ago, she passed away and was replaced by Empress Iris, who gave birth to Aisha. Instead of being jealous and resentful of these new additions, Isis is grateful to have a family again. What a sweet kid! The Empress herself then arrives, delighted to see her stepson and daughter getting along so well. The Emperor, Tyrion de Elmer, is right behind her. Tyrion was originally a war hero known for having subdued the neighboring nations and creating a route known as the Path of Glory, which links all of the Elmer Empire. Nowadays, he is known for his outstanding diplomacy skills and wise decision-making. When Aisha was born, he gave out gold coins and bread to those who were starving, gave pardons to prisoners, and gave thanks to God himself. Who is this guy? He seems like some kind of saint. Aisha couldn't have found a more perfect family for her fresh start at life. But the more love she receives, the more she is haunted by memories of her past. While trapped in her cell as Alyssa, she was once visited by Maryanne. Instead of pitying her, she just laughed and said she wanted to see how pathetic Alyssa looked before being sentenced to death. Wow, does she even have a soul? Her eyes turned red in the shadows as she taunted her sister and promised to meet her on the execution ground. To give you guys a little more context, Maryanne was born to a common woman but accepted into the royal family because of her golden eyes. Alyssa was born from the same mother as the crown prince, but even that didn't stop him from turning on her and ordering her eyes to be burnt out. That's why it's so hard for Aisha to stomach the love and affection little Isis is giving her now. She swears never to believe him and never to love him. That way she can never be betrayed again. Isn't that sad? It also sounds kind of impossible given just how much affection the prince is showering her with. A few months later, Aisha has hit her first birthday. She's still well loved, though by now there are rumors floating around that there's something wrong with her, probably on account of her reserved attitude. She still hasn't spoken yet and rarely expresses her emotions, which is unusual for a child of her age. Of course, she could speak if she really wanted to. She's just too scared to try. In moments like these, she is comforted by special orbs of light which have been by her side since birth. No one but Aisha can see them, proving her status as a special enchantress, one who can see the entities that exist in the natural world. She is able to converse with these spirits who comfort her even when the servants are filled with doubts. Her mother also believes in her and frequently reassures the princess that she can take as much time as she needs. While the maids are discussing her upcoming birthday, the Emperor visits to see his wife and daughter, who he affectionately pats on the head. Empress Iris offers to let him hold her, but the Emperor doesn't seem to know how to hold a baby. It's also possible that he's just overwhelmed by her cuteness. I think that's more likely. Iris reassures Tyrion that his daughter is perfectly healthy, encouraging him to take her in his arms. While cradling her, the Emperor decides to hold a banquet in honor of her birthday, for 1 whole month. He's so obsessed with his daughter that he would throw a party for a whole month? Is that even possible? But the Emperor is 100% serious. He thinks it's a perfectly reasonable occasion and wants to spare no expense either. Aisha is a little stressed at the idea of being on show for an entire month, but her mother seems to have given in already. You see, when the Empress first joined the palace, things were quite difficult for her. The last Empress, Saintess, Prince Isis's mother, was well liked, and many of her people were still spread across the palace. Unlike Saintess, Iris was not a princess, but the daughter of a marquise, so she feared for the safety of her children, who might be considered second to those of holy royal blood. So when the Emperor showered his affection for her daughter in such a grand way, her heart was put at ease. Iris is the daughter of the Russell family, a marquise bloodline who guard the northern border. They rarely come to the capital, so a month-long banquet is a good excuse to invite them down to stay. It's a double win for the Empress, just not for her daughter. The contrast to her old life is painfully obvious. Alyssa's mother didn't care for her, and the Emperor only cared about Crown Prince Lachius. Oh, and evil Maryanne, of course. Aisha falls asleep in her mother's arms and wakes up alone in her bedroom at night. I'm not sure what kind of people let a baby sleep all alone in a big bed like that, but apparently that's just the way this palace runs. Once again, Aisha is visited by her spirit friends. All of a sudden, they start to cluster at her window. The next moment, they transform into a man with blonde hair and golden eyes, surrounded by the orbs of light. Aisha is terrified, as you would be if a random adult man appeared in your bedroom at night. But he doesn't make any sound and quietly walks towards her, communicating only through his willpower, which is kind of like telepathy. The orbs morph into tiny little fairies who say, "I see the king." It sounds like some kind of prophecy, but Aisha is still too scared to respond. Seeing that she won't respond, the strange man decides he's come too early and presses a finger against her head, erasing all memory of their interaction and sending her straight to sleep. Wait, but who was he? Is this like the Manhwa version of Men in Black? I guess we'll never know, because when her maid comes to wake her the next morning, Aisha doesn't remember a thing except the moon. She goes on with her daily life as usual and spends most of her time learning how to walk with the Empress. She's too nervous to try the other things, but with this, Aisha tries her very best. Maybe because each step feels like a step closer to freedom, but with her tiny little body, she can only stay upright for so long. And every time she sees the Empress cheering her on, it brings back memories of the past again. Alyssa's mother, Empress Edenbell, never looked at her with half the love that Iris does now. She only held her to put on a good show in front of the nobles, but even though it was fake, Alyssa always enjoyed the warmth of her mother's arms. Shaking off her memories, Aisha attempts to take another step with her mother and maids cheering her on. Even a little tumble isn't enough to shake her determination. In a moment, she is back on her feet, doing her best to stay stable as she toddles towards her mother. Aw, she's so cute when she's determined. A few days later, Iris's parents, the Marquise and Marquess Russell, arrive for the birthday bonanza, excited to see their granddaughter for the first time. They're very affectionate, just like their daughter, who is overwhelmed with joy to be reunited with her parents. She asks about their territory in the north and how relations have been with Edenbell. Wait, Edenbell? As in Alyssa's family from the Edenbell Empire? They head inside, where the Marquise explains that things have been quiet since the peace agreement, so clearly there's been some tension between the two families in the past. They're a little suspicious because there's a rumor going around that the Edenbell family will send an envoy and a gift to Aisha's birthday banquet. Aisha is immediately terrified that someone from the royal family will show up. She starts to cry, causing concern among her relatives, who joke that she hates the Edenbells just as much as the rest of them. They don't realize just how right they are. Her mother takes her for a little walk through the corridors, trying to calm her down. The tension eases when the Emperor and Prince arrive, eager to see their favorite ladies and share a cup of tea. Isis plays with Aisha, promising to always protect her like a big brother should. He lifts her up and whispers that he's preparing a special birthday present for her. Aisha can't help it. She's finally starting to get a little excited about her big day. And so is the rest of the Empire. The nobles are all keen to meet the girl who the Emperor loves enough to throw a month-long celebration for. On the day the banquet begins, the Empress and Princess are dressed in two gorgeous, matching dusky rose ball gowns. Even Isis is all dressed up in his fancy little uniform, begging to carry his sister into the banquet hall himself. The nobles are already gathered inside, waiting for the guests of honor to arrive. Aisha is really nervous, but at least with her brother and mother by her side, she won't ever be alone. The Emperor joins them on a balcony overlooking the hall, welcoming the nobility of the Elmer Empire. He invites everyone to celebrate his daughter and enjoy the 1 month-long party, while they cheer and applaud down below. After the welcome speech is over, the Imperial family descend into the crowds, where everyone immediately starts gushing over Aisha's adorable, angelic appearance. Reluctantly, Isis hands her over to the Emperor, who has apparently got over his fear of holding babies now that the whole Empire is watching them. The rest of the party runs smoothly after that. Aisha is baptized with holy water from the God of Light, and then the nobles line up to offer gifts to the princess. That's when the envoy from Edenbell arrives. At first, Aisha spots the blue eyes and thinks it's the Crown Prince, her brother Lachius. But when the guest lowers his hood, he reveals himself as Arisen, the son of a duke who is talented in magical arts. He seems fascinated by her bright blue eyes, which are the mark of a witch in the Edenbell Empire. Arisen was Aisha's best and probably her only friend in her past life, so seeing him now is both heartwarming and heartbreaking. They were only 3 years apart, but it seems like he's become much more powerful now, since he's representing the Edenbell family abroad. He kneels down to present a magical stone with special magic designed to protect the wearer. After Arisen, the last to present their gift is Prince Isis. But he doesn't have any old jewel or flower to give her. No, he wants to swear his oath as a knight and dedicate his life to protecting his Aisha. He really just raised the bar for brothers everywhere. Aisha is shocked, and she doesn't want him to lay his life down for her sake, even hypothetically. She starts to cry, but Isis rushes to assure her that he knows what he's doing. With or without an oath, he's already promised to protect her his whole life anyhow. So what's the difference in making it official? Aisha still thinks he's being stupid, but she can't deny how much it warms her heart. She doesn't protest as her father knights his son, allowing him to swear on his sister's behalf. The nobles are delighted. Now her official knight, Isis takes her to a good spot to watch the fireworks, which are utterly magical. She finally feels at peace with him and is starting to become more optimistic about this new life. So she decides to speak his name, so quietly that she doesn't think he heard it at first. But that boy doesn't miss a thing. Once he realizes she just said her first word and it was his name, he starts to cry. Oh my gosh, they're just too precious. She was kind of hoping he wouldn't notice, but now he's begging her to say it again. Hearing the commotion, the Emperor and Empress come running, worried that something bad has happened. But Aisha has finally decided to open her heart to this new world, so she confidently calls each of them by name, making everyone cry. She doesn't know it, but Arasun is watching from below. Strangely, he's reminded of the Edenbell imperial family, who seem to be getting on just fine without Alyssa. The only one who misses her is Arasun. When his master arrives, he admits that he doesn't understand why she had to die. He was studying in the wizard's tower at the time, so by the time he found out, it was already too late. Even now, he still sees her from time to time when he wakes up. With tears streaming down his face, he swears never to forgive the Edenbell family and vows to investigate the truth surrounding Alyssa's accusation. Surprisingly, his sullen old master agrees to help, only on the condition that he massage his shoulders from time to time. Sounds like a fair trade if you ask me. Now, we fast forward to 6 years in the future. Aisha is now a cheerful little 7-year-old who seems much more comfortable with her new life. Isis is older too, but no less fond of his baby sister than when she was little. While she's reading in the gardens, he comes to sit beside her, impressed that she's already studying such advanced subjects at her age. Well, that's what happens when you've lived 2 lives, I guess. You get reborn as a genius. She started demonstrating her talents from the age of 3, when she finally relaxed into her new family. She started learning to read at the age of 3, impressing everyone with her memory and writing skills. The Elmer language is different to the one spoken in the Edenbell Empire, but she got a hang of it pretty quickly. Soon she graduated onto ancient letters, hoping to read old texts about spirits in the Imperial Library. You have to give it to her. This girl is one smart cookie. I know if I was reborn, I sure as heck would not be using my second life to study. Despite her success and how people keep praising her as a genius, Isis has never considered her a competitor to his position as heir. Which is good, since Aisha has no desire to take over the throne. All she wants is revenge on the Edenbell Empire. That's why she's trying to get information on spirits, hoping to use her natural-born talents to her advantages somehow. And if you are wondering how the Edenbell family is doing, unfortunately, things are going well. Maryanne has been honored as a saint, though I can't imagine why, and Lachius is going to have his enthronement ceremony as crown prince this year. More than anything, Aisha is curious about Maryanne's blood-red eyes. She only saw them twice in the days before her death, but they were creepy enough to stick with her. There's definitely some twisted meaning behind them. Back in the present, Isis is commenting that he often feels she's older than him because of how smart she is. Aisha reminds him that he's also a genius. Even at his age, he's already one of the most talented knights in the Empire. Just as they're about to head back to the palace, Isis tells her she can always lean on him when things get tough. He's such a cutie, literally the definition of a golden retriever. When Aisha returns to the palace, she's informed that the Empress is looking for her. You see, things are very busy in the palace at the moment. The Elmer Empire has a festival that corresponds with every season. The Springtime Festival is about showing gratitude to the gods, so all the palace staff and the Empress herself are busy preparing for the ceremony. Fortunately, Iris is a good mother and always makes time for her daughter when she can. They haven't seen each other in 4 days, so Aisha is full of questions about the ceremony and how she's been. After their chit-chat, Iris brings up a scholar by the name of Almond, an academic professor in charge of her studies. Aisha suddenly panics, wondering if she's about to get scolded. But her mother only has positive things to say, reporting that the scholar was incredibly impressed with her academic abilities. Iris confesses that she hasn't been worried about her daughter before, But now that an official professor has confirmed she's basically a genius, the Empress is concerned about Aisha's career path. I mean, they can't just let her sit around the palace all her life. Her mother gives her a chance to think it over slowly and promises to make any opportunity available if she wants it. In the meantime, the spring ceremony will be a good chance for her to make some friends of her own age, something the princess is severely lacking. Aisha makes a good point that her father and brother are too protective to let her go out and make friends, but the Empress promises to convince them. As she should. Every princess needs a couple besties. After finishing her elementary book on ancient languages, Aisha is back to the library for something a little more challenging. There's not time to read everything, so she's hoping she can use her very basic understanding to read an ancient book on spirits and fast forward her research. Luckily, she just so happens to find exactly the book she's looking for. She's about to go home and start reading when the spirits point her to another book, one about magic. Aisha's not about to ignore a direct request from the ancient spirit, so she takes that one with her too. On her way out, she runs into Isis in the hallway, quickly hiding the book she borrowed. Or at least she tries to. Isis catches sight of the book, so she hurriedly explains that it's another book on ancient languages. She tries to run away before he can ask any more questions, but her brother isn't interested in snooping. He just wants to praise her for how hard she's been working in class. Looks like someone else heard the news of that scholar calling her a genius. He also mentions her future, but reassures his baby sister that there's no pressure. The family will support her no matter what she chooses to do. Isn't this all a little too much pressure to be putting on a 7-year-old? Like, I know she's smart, but damn! Finally, alone in her bedroom, Aisha has the chance to pore through the ancient book and learn some fascinating facts about the history of the spirits. Although she can't read super well in the ancient language, she's still able to pick up a rough idea of what happened. The only issue is, it doesn't say anything about people who can see spirits from birth. But it does have information on how to summon spirits. Bingo! In order to summon, a user needs both mana and spirit. They can form a summoning contract which will bind a spirit to their will. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any information on how to actually do that. Ancient books are always so vague. Intrigued by the other book the spirits pointed her towards, Aisha picks up the magic book. And what do you know? Literally the first page she turns to has the instructions for low-level spirit contracting. With these two texts combined, Aisha has enough information to try and make her own contract. She sketches out a basic rune on paper and places her hand on top, reciting a special incantation. Obviously, because she's a child prodigy and a reborn princess, it works on her first try. The paper starts to glow, and from within the rune appears a tiny golden fairy. And this fairy isn't just any spirit. Aisha recognizes her voice at once and realizes this is the same spirit who has been by her side since she was little. To form the contract, the fairy gently kisses Aisha's forehead and suddenly bursts into her physical form. She introduces herself as Lu, a low-level light spirit. Isn't she just the cutest? She explains that when contracted, spirits are given an entity which resides in the human world. That's why she now has a body and why they can speak more freely. Lu congratulates her on a successful summoning. It's not that easy for most people, but since Aisha is super talented, she did it in one go. Lu addresses her as Master, delighted to finally be summoned and connected with the girl she's been protecting all these years. Apparently, Aisha is pretty famous among the spirits. Even the Spirit King knows about her. Lu accidentally lets it slip that she's the only one in the world who can see spirits without making a contract. Aisha knew she was special, but she didn't think she was totally unique. Maybe her power is much greater than she realized. Eager to test her talents, Aisha asks about the higher-level spirits. Apparently, summoning more powerful spirits all comes down to how much magic the summoner possesses. And while Aisha has a high ability to adapt and connect with spirits, she doesn't have much magical power at the moment. She's still just a kid after all. Lu gets excited when she notices cookies on the desk, so they sit down for a cup of tea while Aisha processes all of this. She asks Lu how to acquire more magical power, but it's not some skill with a special cheat code. She'll have to increase it little by little if she wants to get to the higher level spirits, and ultimately, the Spirit King of Light, Luminous. Luminous is also what the humans call the God of Light, associated with glory, victory, and good harvests. Turns out, they're the same guy. In this universe, the Spirit Kings were born after the Creator God made day and night. Their names changed over time, so these days they're not always recognized as their original identities. Some of the deities humans worship are actually gods, but some, like Luminous, are really spirits. Thanks to Lu's little history lesson, Aisha has figured out a way to help her mother. The next day, she heads over to visit the Empress and Emperor, excited to announce her plan for the upcoming festivities. Since the Spring Festival is all about honoring spirits and the God of Light, she proposed her own plan for the celebrations. Every day she's been working hard, hoping to bring the spirits back to the center of the Elmer Empire, since they've been mostly forgotten in recent years. As soon as Aisha asks Lu about the Spirit King, she starts rambling about how cool and handsome he is. Sounds like someone has a little crush, if you ask me. He has yellow eyes and silver hair and is supposed to be the most dazzling of all gods and spirit kings alike. It's not possible for a human to summon him because no human has ever had enough magic to bring him into the human realm. But theoretically, it is still possible, since fairies are forced to accept any contract that summons them. Aisha is already crazy talented for her age, so who knows? Maybe someday she might have enough power to summon Luminous. She suddenly gets curious about her brother, who has been sick for a couple of days after practicing his swordsmanship in the rain. The maid wasn't actually supposed to tell her. Isis ordered his condition to be kept a secret in case Aisha came to visit and got infected. Understandably, the princess is a little upset that he kept it from her, but she decides to obey his wishes and write a letter instead. Aisha doesn't know it, but he could really use a pick-me-up right now. He's being looked after by the crabbiest of all the knights in training, a red-headed boy named Balmor Bion. Bion is the son of a duke, which maybe explains why he's not afraid to be rude to the crown prince. If Isis is a golden retriever, Bion is like the reluctant wolf at his side, always criticizing his reckless choices. Like training in the rain, for example. A butler interrupts their bickering to announce that a maid has arrived from the princess's palace. Uh-oh, secret's out, buddy. A flustered Isis hurriedly gets out of bed to receive his sister's precious letter. As you probably guessed, he forgets all about his illness once he's opened it. Bion tells him not to be dramatic, but come on, this is Crown Prince Isis. He's literally the drama king. He sends the maid back and tells Bion to can it while he reads Aisha's warm wishes. She talks about how much she misses him and how she hopes he'll be healthy in time for the spring ceremony, promising to pray for him. What a sweetie. Obviously, if Aisha requests it, her brother will move heaven and earth to make it happen. Just like she suspected, he does know she's hiding something from her family, but he trusts that she has her own reasons. He just wants to support her no matter what. Bion watches in shock as the prince suddenly regains his energy to write a response for Aisha. Although he thinks Isis is a little overeager at times, he is happy that the princess is becoming such a positive influence in his life. After Thetis passed away, there was a time when Isis went a little crazy and didn't have any direction in his life. Now, with Empress Iris and Aisha, he seems more driven than ever before. I mean, he literally swore his life to her. You can't get more dedicated than that. The first day of spring arrives at last, and with it comes the first day of the Spring Festival. There's an initial ceremony for Luminous, the god of light, after which the priests channel his holy powers to heal the sick and wounded. While watching the ceremony, Lu explains that the priests aren't channeling a divine energy from God like the humans believe. It's more like a special power owned by the light spirits which can heal sickness and injuries. The priests of Luminous are given access to a small amount of his power as thanks for their dedication. Aisha can use it too, but lucky for her, she doesn't have to dedicate her whole life to the church to access it. The higher the spirit summoned, the more power she can use. But even a low-level spirit like Lu can provide enough for her to heal people just like those priests. Well, that's exciting! But Aisha is smart enough to know that she should hide this skill for now. If word gets out that Elmer's princess is a spirit controller who can heal the wounded, then she might become a target. After the ceremony, the imperial family hosts a garden party with Elmer's greatest nobles. It's a great chance for Aisha to make friends, but all she wants to do is talk with Isis. She hasn't seen him since he recovered, and ever since then, he's been tailed by that red-haired boy, Duke Bion's son. He already has a reputation for being talented in both swords and magic. Just when Aisha's head is starting to pound from all the boring, girly conversation, Bion approaches her table. Apparently, Isis is looking for her, the perfect excuse to break away from this dull tea party. Once they're alone, Bion confesses that Isis didn't actually summon her. He just wanted the chance to talk to her alone. Even from a distance, he could see that she wasn't having a good time, so he decided to come and rescue her. Ooh, he's observant and kind. I always love a kind-hearted king with a cold exterior. Aisha thanks him and notices the floral brooch on his jacket. It was her idea. Everyone in the festival is wearing flowers as a token of thanks to the spirits for their protection. Beyond compliments her planning. He's noticed that every event today is clearly geared around reminding people of the spirit's existence, since they're normally easy to forget. He sure catches on quick. He also compliments her maturity. He's been meaning to talk to her for a while, but the princess is kind of hard to approach for one very obvious reason. That reason barges in a moment later, completely ignoring Beyond as he gushes over her letter and how much he missed her. He only stops rambling when they notice their grandparents' arrival from across the garden. Beyond quietly tags along behind the kids as they guide the Marquise and Marquess through the palace grounds. The Marquis stops them by a flower arch and asks his granddaughter to stand beneath it. Aisha gets so caught up in the beauty of the roses that she doesn't notice him pulling out a glowing orb. It's kind of like a magical camera used to record pictures, images, and sounds. Just now, he took a photo of her, capturing every frame in the magic ball. Aisha's face goes bright red when she sees herself twirling and smiling at the petals. Isis immediately asks if he can keep it. His grandfather says no, pointing out that he can see his sister every day if he wants to. And besides, he bought this one as a present for Aisha. Beyond watches them fondly. He doesn't have any siblings, so he doesn't know what it's like to bicker over something, or miss someone the way Isis does. It makes him kind of jealous. The next day is the biggest event of the entire festival, the burning of incense to pray for peace in the Empire. Everyone wears white, and Isis will lead the prayer as successor to the Elmer throne. In the evening, they'll have the largest banquet of the entire year, so there's a lot going on. Before all the madness starts, Aisha, Isis, and Beyond get a chance to sit down for tea in the garden. Everything is perfectly presented, but Aisha doesn't recognize the person serving them. Which is weird, because usually serving tea is an honor reserved only for those who have worked in the palace for a really long time. The color of the tea is also a little strange. Uh-oh, I think we all know what's happening here. Aisha doesn't think anything of it and takes a sip. Lou appears to warn her, but it's already too late. She starts to spit blood, her vision blurring. But she's not worried for herself. Instead, she looks to Isis, praying he hasn't drank too much. A sudden splatter of blood confirms her suspicions. Both prince and princess collapse at the table, still reaching for each other. Oh my gosh, this is crazy! 5 minutes ago everything was fine, and now... They can't be dead. There's no way they'd kill off the protagonist and her loyal puppy. Right? After the incident, the nobles are in a frenzy. Thanks to Beyond, they quickly caught the servant responsible, but the poor kid is furious at himself for not being able to save them. He needs to give himself a break. He's a soldier, not a doctor. Luckily, Empress Iris was nearby, so she rushed to their side in time to call for help. After a full medical assessment, the doctor confirms that Aisha only ingested a small amount of poison. It had a serious impact since she's so young, but she should recover just fine. Isis, on the other hand, there's no guarantee that he'll survive. The most important thing right now is to discover the type of toxin so that they can find the antidote. Technically, their best bet would be using the divine power of the High Priest, but he's been summoned elsewhere for the rest of the festival. The Emperor is in shambles. Not only is he stressed about his son's survival, but now he has to deal with all these rumors springing up about the poisoning being a bad omen. Some people are even saying it's a sign that his heir isn't worthy. What a load of nonsense! The Empress is with the princess right now. The worst of it has passed, but they still need a high priest or someone similar to get rid of the toxins in her body. Which is kind of ironic. The one person capable of healing her and Isis is Aisha herself. And speaking of our main girl, she's currently having traumatic flashbacks to her time as Alyssa, when she was trapped in a dark cell with no way out. Aisha, back in her old body, immediately starts to panic. Her throat starts to burn, and the only water nearby is filthy and out of her reach. She tries to grab it anyway, and ends up spilling the entire bowl when it knocks against the bars. That feeling of emptiness and desperation takes her right back to her life as Alyssa, and the injustice she felt when her whole family turned against her. It's not the kind of thing you can just forget, even after being reborn. She curls up in a ball, wishing to die. And just then, a strange voice in her head answers back. The voice says she doesn't mean it, that she still has goals to accomplish before she gives up. Aisha is a little creeped out, but I guess having voices in her head isn't any weirder than going back in time. The voice reminds her not to focus on the family who abandoned her. There's a whole other family who love her and are waiting for her on the other side. A blinding light fills the cell, and at first, Aisha can't see a thing. Then the image sharpens. Fireworks burst over the heads of her family, calling her name and beckoning her back to the real world. That's all she needed to remember the truth. She's Aisha, not Alyssa. That life is over. She has a new purpose now, new people to live for. Unfortunately, this isn't one of those dream sequences where she can just click her fingers and wake up. Aisha starts running across an empty field, but the light just gets further and further away with every step. Frustrated, she lies down, trying to think up another strategy. What is that light anyway? It feels warm and welcoming, the way her family feels. Suddenly, Aisha sits up. She realizes that the light is not just other people, it's also inside of her. She doesn't need to chase it, she already has it. Confident once more, Aisha stands up and walks toward the light, calling out the name of her fairy spirit. As she gets closer, a darkness approaches her from behind. But Aisha isn't scared. She just steps into the light, knowing it will take her back home to the place where she belongs. Damn, I know she's lived twice already, but she sure is smart for a 7-year-old. Having successfully returned to her body, Aisha opens her eyes to find a teary Empress Iris by her bedside. She cries out and pulls her daughter into a tight hug as Aisha assures her she's perfectly fine. Excuse me? Girl, you nearly died. The priest confirms it too when checking up on her. Although she's regained her energy, she still needs a lot more rest and treatment to recover from the poisoning. Aisha asks at once about her brother. Seeing her mother's worried face, she knows immediately that something's not right. The priest reluctantly explains that Isis is in a critical condition since he consumed so much poison. They've already contacted the high priest, but since he's away on a pilgrimage, he won't arrive until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. Aisha tries to get out of bed, gritting her teeth from the pain. Her mother and the priest try to make her rest, but she won't hear a word of it. Not while Isis is in danger. She snatches some medicine from the priest's hands and drinks it all in one go, demanding to visit her brother. Beyond and the Emperor are watching over Isis when the princess arrives in her mother's arms. The Emperor looks very concerned to see her out of bed, but she doesn't bother speaking to him. She rushes straight to Isis, who is lying in bed, clearly fighting a fever. A priest is doing his best to keep the toxins at bay, but it's obvious Isis is struggling. I have no idea how a 7-year-old, even a crazy talented one with magic and fairies on her side, is going to save a dying boy. But Aisha is determined to do it. Isis always protects her, so now it's her turn. A teary Lu appears, grateful to see Aisha up and about. Her owner doesn't waste time with pleasantries and immediately asks if she can call an intermediate spirit to help her brother. At first, Lu refuses. Aisha only just recovered, so she doesn't have much energy to spend. Trying to summon a higher level spirit right now could be really dangerous. Then, she suddenly remembers about magic stones, which can basically lend her more energy to carry out the summoning. With a magic stone, they might just be able to do it. With Lu's blessing, Aisha pulls out the stone Arisan gave her at the birthday banquet. She's been keeping it safe just in case she needed it for something like this, but unfortunately, the stone is empty of energy. Lu thinks that might be why she was able to regain her consciousness so quickly, because the magic in this stone was protecting her mana. Now it's run out, which leaves Aisha out of options. But if Aisha can do one thing, it's improvise. She suddenly asks Bion if she can borrow his magic stone, and he agrees. Her family watch in confusion as their 7-year-old suddenly gets on the ground and starts scribbling a rune from her ancient textbook. They've never seen her use magic before, especially not to summon a spirit. They must think she's lost her marbles. The rune she draws this time is huge, far bigger than the one that summoned Lu. She steps back, places Bion's magic stone in the center, and begins the incantation. Her parents are shocked and kinda terrified when the rune lights up bright red and starts sapping energy from their daughter. This time, the summoning requires a lot more from little Aisha, who can barely hold her head up from the effort. But once it's complete, a large, life-size fairy appears in the center and introduces themselves as Remy. Aisha extends a hand, asking to sign a contract. The spirit accepts, not like they have a choice, and kisses her hand to seal the deal. The red haze disappears after that. Just like Lu, Remy now has a physical form, though she seems a little more serious than her first fairy friend. At this point, the Emperor and Empress are practically begging for an explanation, like, what just happened? When did their daughter get these powers? And why is there a fairy in their son's bedroom? Speaking of Isis, the poor kid's life is still very much in danger. Aisha explains briefly that she has summoned a spirit with healing powers to save her brother and approaches his bedside. Remy explains that she and Aisha are already connected since they've signed the contract. The closer the two of them are, the more of Remy's power Aisha can use, so it only makes sense for her to just slip inside her body. Well, kind of. Remy shares her energy and knowledge with her owner, turning the princess's eyes golden. Suddenly, she feels strong again and knows what to do instinctively, so she places her hands over Isis and starts to heal him. It takes a lot of energy, but it seems to be working. Within only a few seconds, Isis stirs, but it's not enough. Even with Remy's added powers, she can't wake him up and break the fever. Thinking of their childhood and all the time they spent together, Aisha summons all of her energy, every last drop, and tries to keep her hands steady. After a few seconds, she collapses. Fortunately, Bian is there to catch her, but the writing's on the wall. She doesn't have enough energy or power to completely heal her brother. At least, not without wrecking herself in the process. Exhausted and defeated, Aisha cries out her frustration. She doesn't know it, but the truth is she's already done enough. Isis has woken up, thinking he's in heaven. His weepy sister throws herself at him, too relieved to even speak. I can't believe it. She actually saved him. I don't know about you guys, but for a second there, I really thought we were about to lose him. I'm sure you guys already know what happens next. Everybody cries and hugs each other. Isis slowly regains his strength, and Aisha finally reveals the truth about her ability to summon spirits. The useless priest, who's still hanging around by the way, apologizes for not being able to save Isis on his own. He's so impressed by Aisha that he even calls her a saint, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's not off the table. Aisha, of course, denies it. She's just a spirit mage. A very talented one, but a mage nonetheless. To prove it, she summons Lu to appear in front of them and introduces herself. Her father boasts about how proud he is and promises to support her future path as a mage. Well, I guess that solved the question of her career. The priest is still in shock, so Aisha explains the truth about Luminous, a god who is also the king of the light spirits. That's where the priest gets their power from, which is why it seemed like Aisha's powers are so holy. It's kind of a risk to be explaining all of this, since revealing that a god is actually just a spirit probably won't go down well with the church. But this priest seems pretty chill. He's mainly just impressed that a little girl could summon more power than the high priest. He names her a goddess, which Aisha kind of just ignores. They can call her whatever they want, but Aisha makes it clear that she has no intention of joining their religion. Her place is with her family in the Imperial Palace. After that's settled, Bian excuses himself, promising to keep what happened here a secret for now. The Emperor and Isis have a spine-chilling conversation about how they're going to punish the attempted murderers, all while smiling like psychopaths. I guess there's a reason the Emperor has been such a good ruler all this time. Over the next few weeks, everyone in the palace makes a big fuss about Aisha. The Empress will only allow her to eat in bed, which means Aisha's maid is basically hand-feeding her every spoonful. She's also being forced to take some horrible, bitter medicine that the High Priest brought after returning from his travels. The culprit of the poisoning was discovered to be a famous count from the north, who didn't support Isis as a successor. The Emperor was merciless in his revenge, but Aisha still isn't sure they've uncovered the whole story. After all, why would the Count target Aisha as well? It seems more like they were trying to cripple the Elmer royalty. Plus the fact that they used exactly the same poison that Maryanne ingested? Well, it's all a bit suspicious if you ask me. A little while later, Aisha is finally allowed outside her bedroom to enjoy the refreshing summer weather. While taking a stroll in the gardens, she meets Isis, who confirms her suspicions. The Count is not their real enemy, and while Isis wants her to know the whole truth, their father is strictly against it. Isis also says that she has the right not to listen. She's still just a kid, and he's determined to become stronger so that if she wants to live in ignorance, he can continue protecting her. But let's be honest, we all know Aisha isn't that kind of girl. The princess reminds him that she saved him last time. She's more than capable of handling herself. So it's only fair they treat her like an adult and tell her the whole story. Isis knew she'd say that. He tells her the Count never let anything slip, despite painful interrogation. But the successor excuse wasn't enough to fool the Emperor. After further investigation, they discovered that the true culprits were the imperial family of the Edenbell Empire. I can't say I'm surprised. As far as they know, the Edenbell Empire family are a big old mess. Lachius, the crown prince currently on the throne, is known to have many faults. The eldest princess, Alyssa, has been deposed for trying and failing to assassinate another member of the imperial family, which is such a shock that Aisha almost collapses. She looks very pale, but she insists that Isis tell her the rest. They don't know the whole story yet, but they suspect that the crown prince instigated their poisoning in an attempt to draw attention away from his own family and weaken their main rivals, the Elmer Empire. After hearing all of that, Aisha feels sick. Finding out that the family who killed her in her past life are after her again? Well, you can understand why she's so upset. Worried about her condition, Isis tries to send his sister back to the palace to rest. But she has something important to tell him first. When she looks up, Aisha is crying. She confesses that she was born with memories of another life, before her time as a princess of Elmer. She tells him everything: her old identity, the false accusation, and even her eventual execution. Most importantly, she swears that she had nothing to do with the poisoning. She must be scared that Isis won't believe her. Although, I don't know why she's worried. She could tell him she's secretly a flying pig, and I'm pretty sure that boy would believe her. Of course, Isis doesn't even hesitate. Even though it's a crazy story, he immediately says he believes her. I'm not sure if he's super loyal or just super stupid, but he seems to have no trouble with the whole reincarnation thing either. But at the very least, he knows her well enough to know Aisha could never kill someone. Not in this life or the past either. Even if the whole world turned against her, Isis promises to always stand by her side. Oh, you guys, isn't he just perfect? After that, Aisha sobs her little heart out in his arms. The tears just won't stop, even after she's feeling better and Isis has promised 1,000 times to treat her enemies as his own. And you just know he's serious. This boy would do unspeakable things to anyone who tried to harm his baby sister. So he asks her what she wants to do. Does she want to go after the Edenbells? Does she want to forget about it and move on? Obviously not. She wants revenge. That's why she was reborn after all. And more than anything, she wants to clear her name. Alyssa's name, that is. Isis promises to help her, and after that, she lays on his lap, looking up at the clouds. After all these years, she's finally come clean about both her powers and her past life. It feels good, to be honest, and to have her favorite person accept her despite everything. Aisha admits that she's really scared all this love and happiness will suddenly disappear. But with Isis watching over her, she can rest a little easier. She falls asleep on his lap, where even in her dreams, he keeps her safe. Meanwhile, over in the Edenbell Empire, Crown Prince Lachius is feeling bitter that his assassination attempt failed. Not only did he fail, but now they've also lost their inside man, the Count who took the blame. He knows that if the truth comes out, it won't be possible to prevent an all-out war, which would be fine by him if he only had time to weaken the Elmer Empire first, strengthen his own forces, and quickly gain the title of Emperor. That's what he was trying to do by poisoning Isis and Aisha, but obviously, that didn't work. So now he needs to prepare in case this whole situation escalates to a conflict. The prince is pulled from his thoughts when he spots his sister, Maryanne, looking just as gorgeous and innocent as ever. Isn't it freaky how different people can be on the inside? She's even sitting by herself, quietly praying like a little angel. Ugh, this girl gives me the creeps. Lachius knew she'd be here. Apparently, she comes to the Temple of Selena fairly often, and he wanted to speak to her. As he sits down, he gets a sudden flashback of his younger years, when the siblings all went for a picnic together, Alyssa included. Just seeing her face makes his head hurt. Yeah, it should. That's called guilt pain, buddy. He breaks the news that the poisoning failed, which seems to disappoint the so-called Saint Maryanne. He assumes the Elmer family just have a really good priest. He has no idea that his dead sister was reincarnated as the princess and managed to save his rival's life. While thinking about Alyssa, he remembers the political scramble during her accusation, how different people tried to avoid the blame by supporting her execution. Her mother did so, and Lachius was the same. As her half-brother and heir to the throne, lots of people pointed the finger at him as well. Some people are still trying to keep those rumors alive just to ruin his reputation and his chances at becoming emperor. That's why he's so desperate to prove himself by taking out the Elmer family and conquering their empire in war if he has to. Even now, it seems little Alyssa is causing problems for her ex-family. Despite the trouble, Lachius has been having strangely fond flashbacks to his time with her in the past few months. Her hands were always warm, while Maryanne's hand is ice cold when he grabs it. Hello? How many signs is this guy going to ignore? Back in the Elmer Empire, there's another crown prince being haunted by his past. Isis often thinks of his sickly mother, who passed away when he was very little. Even though her death wasn't his fault, he always felt that way, since her condition worsened after giving birth to him. For a while, after his mother's death, he became very cynical. There were a lot of people hoping to depose him, just like Lachius. And he was also suspicious of the emperor until his father declared publicly that he was the one and only heir to the throne. After that, his position stabilized, but he still didn't let his guard down. He was worried the next empress would give birth to a prince, and then everything would become complicated. For that reason, he avoided Empress Iris when she first joined the palace. Despite the distance, she always made an effort to treat him kindly, to be honest and welcoming to her new son. He tried to ignore her. Even though he was just a boy, he was wary of letting anyone too close and becoming attached to someone who might stab him in the back. What a hard life it must be as a crown prince. Things finally changed after Isis overheard the Empress and his father discussing their next child with the palace staff. His worst fear was coming true. If the Empress had a baby boy, his position would be in jeopardy. A moody little Isis stomped off, deciding not to take walks through the palace again in future. The Empress knew he'd been listening, so she ran to catch up to him in the garden. At first, Isis was flustered and tried to run off. He was so determined to get away that he didn't look where he was going and tripped over a rock. He rolled down a slope and got pretty roughed up in the process. Deeply concerned, the Empress came running after him. "Oh gosh, don't make the same mistake, Your Majesty." Luckily, she made it to her stepson unharmed and checked his injuries right away. She's such a kind-hearted woman that she even started tearing up. Isis assured her he was fine. Actually, he was kind of rude and told her to stop making him uncomfortable. Ouch! She was only trying to help. Like all little boys do, he expected to be yelled at. Before the Empress had a chance, he got to his feet and turned to leave. But the Empress kept calling after him, and when he wouldn't turn back, she just scooped him up and carried him instead. Oh, right. I forgot he was so tiny. Still concerned about his bumps and bruises, Iris set him down nearby and tore a piece of her dress to make him a bandage. She scolded him for acting so callous. Not towards her, but towards himself. The Empress said she cherished him, and it made her angry to have him brush her aside while he was hurting. She softened and asked if it was because she's not his biological mother. Of course, Isis didn't answer that. It's kind of a heavy question to dump on a kid, after all. A long time passed, and the prince went about his life as if nothing ever happened. His father agreed on a date for his coronation, which would secure his position and officially make him the crown prince, and yet he still felt so frustrated with his life. He thought back to the Empress, how she escorted him back to the palace and asked him to never ignore his wounds, and to always put himself first. And who came to interrupt his thoughts? The Empress herself. By this point, she was pretty heavily pregnant and hadn't seen him in some time. She congratulated him on his enthronement and invited him to her quarters to have some tea. Even for Isis, it would be too rude to say no, so he followed her to the Empress's palace, where she asked him for a favor. His grandfather's words kept ringing in his ear, reminding him not to trust her. Now that he'd become the crown prince, was she trying to use him? But Iris didn't ask him for any kind of political advantage. She just wanted him to be a good brother to his sister once she was born. Isis was shocked. He didn't expect her to consider him the brother of her unborn child. This is the first time anyone had ever asked him to be something other than a prince. People were always demanding he took a stand, did his duty, or allied with the right people. Now, for once, there was this kind lady just asking him to be an older brother. Still, he was such a stubborn kid that he couldn't just say yes. He promised to think it over, which is kind of funny. What's he gonna do, say no? Over the next few weeks, Prince Isis visited the Empress's palace more frequently and became very fond of his stepmother. It made him happy to be somewhere so warm and friendly, especially knowing he had a baby sister on the way. A short while later, the Emperor officially announced his son's coronation. A feast was held for 1 whole month in his honor. Of course, his grandfather also made an appearance and congratulated him on finally achieving security in the royal family. But Isis admitted the truth, that he never wanted to be crown prince. It was only because his grandfather was the one who forced him into the role, and he hated it. He had no idea how his grandfather would react, but the one thing he wasn't expecting was an apology. He knelt down and admitted that he became desperate after Isis's mother passed away. He was trying so hard to protect the last remaining piece of her. And to be fair, if the Emperor wasn't so kind, he really could have been in danger. It didn't help that Isis had his mother's eyes, which only made his grandfather more protective, more desperate to secure his spot between the Emperor and Empress. Hearing all of this felt like a weight off Isis's chest. Hearing that his grandfather wasn't against the Empress removed the last obstacle between the prince and his stepmother. He had a sudden urge to visit her before the ceremony and ran off right away to find her. His father caught him right outside the door, pleased to see his son looking so cheerful for once. Out of nowhere, he started talking about his mother and how the Emperor was so busy since she passed away. Why did everyone want to have deep conversations that day? Give the poor kid a break. He apologized for not having enough time for his son and admitted that marrying Iris was partly for his sake. He was hoping she could help to raise him, and that way his son would have a mother again. I'm not sure a kid his age has the mental capacity to process all that. On to his third emotionally draining conversation of the day, Isis charged into the Empress's room, panting and exhausted. When Iris turned around, the little prince pulled out the handkerchief she gave him that day. She didn't take it right away and started telling him about a dream she just had. Meanwhile, poor Isis was just standing there, probably already late for his coronation ceremony, wondering what the heck she's talking about. Which is kind of freaky because the Emperor decided to name their baby Aisha, which means white bird. Quite the creative, isn't he? She once again asked him to be a good brother to little Aisha, and turned back to find the prince crying. Finally, he felt like he was part of a family again, and even called the Empress mother. Then obviously that sets her off, and then they're both crying and promising to be good mothers and brothers. Come on, you guys, there's a ceremony to perform. It's a good thing Iris and Isis did make peace in the end, because Aisha couldn't have imagined her life without her brother, especially since he's so dedicated to her. Finally, we're back to the present, where Aisha is being woken by her nanny on the morning of her 14th birthday. That's right, our little Aisha is now a teenager, which probably means Maryanne is an adult with even more power and influence over the Edenbell Empire than she had before. Something tells me she'll be forcing her way back into Aisha's life very soon. For the same reason, Aisha is very excited about growing up. Just like in our world, 18 years old is considered the start of adulthood in the Empire. The start of adulthood as a princess will give her a lot more control, and she's only got 4 years left. Already, she is adored by the whole Empire and many other nations as well. As proof, she received an absolute mountain of gifts from the representatives of different countries to wish her a happy birthday. Her parents are already so proud of her, especially her mother. The Empress used to worry a lot about Aisha's position as a child. After saving her brother and revealing her powers, she was given the title of Saintess, and people quickly became obsessed with her. I mean, she was literally a child of God and a princess. She was basically a celebrity at the age of 7. Her father interrupts her flashback by presenting Aisha his gift. It looks like a map? At first, she's a little confused, and then it hits her. Her father points to a small island. Yep, that's right. He literally bought his daughter an island. Ugh, why am I not a princess? This island is in the Principality of Realton and contains an actual diamond mine. They only managed to get a hold of it because of Isis, who, by the way, has grown into a very handsome young man. He looks a lot more like his father and even calls Iris mother now. As well as growing up, he's become a lot more serious and responsible, talented with both a pen and a sword, which obviously has made him very popular with the ladies. Though he's received dozens of marriage proposals, he's turned down every one. Is it bad if that makes me happy? Anyway, the Empress interrupts her son's bragging about getting the island to announce her own gift. She's gone almost as big as her husband and stepson by securing a villa in the south with beautiful scenery and gorgeous weather. Aisha has never been able to travel before, and now suddenly she has both an island and a villa all to herself. She must be the luckiest girl in the world. Her parents even joke about giving her a whole country for her next birthday. I think that would be just a little bit over the top. That evening, a banquet is held to celebrate the princess's birthday. Aisha is nervous about meeting all the guests, so Lu reassures her. The amount of affection she receives gets greater every year, but so does the amount of pressure. The people of the Empire are watching her closely. As Saintess, she's been asked to heal the Empire's sick and wounded on every birthday. That was the condition for letting her leave the temple and resume her position as daughter of the Emperor. But Aisha never wanted all this attention or grand titles. She just wanted revenge, remember? Maybe if her family wasn't so wonderful, she wouldn't have felt the pressure to fulfill her duty as a princess. Life is always unexpected like that. Now she's more dedicated to her family and her empire than her original mission. All these things are running through her head when Master Beyond steps onto the balcony. Just like her brother, he's also grown into a very handsome young man. Though he's still just as stiff and formal as before. I guess that's only natural for the vice commander of the Imperial Guard. Aisha still has the red magic stone she borrowed from him to save her brother. She keeps it in a jewelry box next to the stone she received from Arsene when she was younger. Beyond says everyone is looking for her. They need to start the ceremony, so she heads inside. Just as the princess reaches the door, Beyond assures her that she can lean on him if she ever needs any help. After all, there are plenty of people looking out for her. I guess he heard her talking to Lou about feeling pressured. Aisha reassures him that she won't hesitate to ask for help and thanks him. Apparently, that's enough to make the vice commander of the Imperial Guard blush. He always was a sensitive one. Inside the throne room, Aisha is dressed up in priestly robes and given the responsibility of holding the sacred healing ceremony. She conjures Limi, shocking the audience who have never seen a spirit before. Aisha commands Limi to treat the patient kneeling before them, a blind woman. Her magical powers have grown a lot in the last few years, and now she's able to perform tremendous tasks without depleting her mana. In just a few seconds, the blind woman's sight is restored, and people begin to chant like crazy for the Saintess. Despite being more capable than she used to be, Aisha still feels the effects a few days later, exhausted from exercising so much of her powers. She was so tired that she didn't even get to attend her own birthday banquet, and has spent the last few days in bed. Bored, she asks her nanny to bring the maps detailing the locations of her island and villa. Seriously, that's still so crazy to me. What kind of 14-year-old has a house and an island already? Even Aisha is a little flustered by the scale of this year's gifts. It turns out Isis secured the island with the diamond mine in exchange for a military alliance with the Principality of Rioten. It was established about a century after gaining independence from the Elmer Empire, so their army is still pretty weak. And since the Edinburgh Empire are sitting right on their northern border, they need all the help they can get. Since the poisoning attempt, they've had no further trouble from their eternal rivals, but Isis has worked his butt off to get strong enough to face them someday. Aisha, too, has managed to keep studying elemental arts outside of her duties. Thinking about her ex-family gets her all worked up, so the princess decides to visit her new villa to relax. Her family sees her off at the gate, waving goodbye as the princess rides off in her carriage. Already, Aisha and Lou are excited to be outside the palace. She spent most of her life between the imperial grounds and the temple, so this is her first trip all by herself. Transportation has been greatly improved ever since the poisoning incident, when the priest couldn't make it back in time to save his son. Nowadays, they have magical portals, so Aisha is riding down a rural road to the south of the Empire within minutes. Already, the weather is warm and bright, which makes it easy to drift off to sleep. A few minutes later, she wakes up to find herself in front of her gorgeous estate. Did her mom call this a villa? That looks more like a mansion to me. It has balconies, fountains, and carefully curated gardens. It's literally every little girl's dream. The mansion, let's call it what it is surrounded by a small forest and was built to catch the eye. I mean, obviously, it's half gold. The garden is full of flowers, and every one of the staff is friendly, from the maids to the chefs. You might think a little girl would be scared walking into a house full of strangers, but Aisha already feels right at home. Plus, all the rooms are protected with magic, so she's perfectly safe. Her brother and mother picked the furniture and designed the villa themselves, so there's a piece of her family everywhere she looks. Aisha still can't quite believe it's all hers. An even bigger shock comes when the small mountain of invitations that have already arrived at the villa. All the families in the south want to get close with her, particularly one Marquise Blim, the head of one of the most powerful families in this region. He has a daughter about her age, a girl named Rose, who has yet to debut in society. Aisha is keen to have a friend her own age, so she accepts. Her mother tried to get her to socialize with girls her own age back at the palace, but between her imperial duties and her temple visits, she spent more time with her family than friends. And she had Lou, of course. Later that evening, Aisha wakes up in a strange place, in a forest on the edge of the cliff, and there's someone waiting for her. As she watches, a great golden bird comes down and greets the stranger. Do you guys recognize him? That's right, it's that weirdo who appeared in her room all those years ago. The one who said he came too early and then vanished, erasing her memory? Aisha wakes up in a panic, back in her own bed, with Lou right behind her. It was all a dream. Or was it? She tries to shake the dream from her head and get back to enjoying her holiday. The next morning, they take a carriage to tour the area around Antrell and enjoy the mountain scenery. As if that wasn't enough, she's attending a ball in the afternoon. This girl is only 14, and already she does more in one day than I do in a whole week. Her governess announces that the area they're going to is on a steep cliff and is known to be dangerous. Aisha suddenly remembers the dream, wondering if it's the same place. But they stop off at the bottom, not on the cliff itself, so she can't really tell. It's very difficult to reach the top, so there are all sorts of myths about strange creatures and mysterious occurrences existing up there. The locals avoid visiting to respect whatever lives up there. I wonder if they'd still avoid it if they knew the strange creature was just a gorgeous blonde man with a pet bird. Obviously, when you tell a kid that something is off limits, it just makes them want to do it even more. She decides to revisit the cliff with Lou, or at least attempt to find the strange man. They take the carriage back to the villa, where the princess gets dressed for the Blim family ball and heads straight back out again. She's a little nervous, since she's not used to talking with kids her own age, but the governess reassures her that she'll do just fine. I mean, who could dislike someone as gorgeous, rich, and talented as her? Just when she's starting to relax, Lou gets agitated and warns her that something bad is going to happen. Thanks, Lou. That's somehow vague, unhelpful, and terrifying all at the same time. She steps out of the carriage and is greeted by a servant who warns her that a white-haired spirit has just arrived in the ballroom. No way! Does that mean Maryanne is here? What would she be doing in some random countryside ball? And in the Elmer territory, no less. Aisha is scared, but she has to see for herself. Plus, if Maryanne really was able to conjure spirits, that would explain why her eyes lit up red. Just as she's running toward the mansion, Rose Blim comes out to greet her, apologizing for being late. Rose is slightly starstruck to actually meet the Princess of the Empire and awkwardly introduces herself, and Lady Duke Chloe Demont, a blue-haired girl beside her. Aisha wastes no time and asks them straight up if the news about the spirit is true. The girls are a little hesitant to explain. The situation is complicated. All she can tell right now is that there is in fact a spirit inside. Aisha decides to go and confirm it with her own eyes, since no one seems to be able to give her a straight answer. While they walk through the ballroom, she considers several different possibilities. Perhaps Maryanne arrived pretending to be her. After all, the princess of the Edenbell Empire would have no business at a party like this, and they probably wouldn't have let her in unless they thought she was Aisha. They overhear some girls nearby talking about the fake princess, claiming she summoned a spirit with blue light on her hands. There's no one else known to have those kind of powers, not in the Elmer Empire. Could it really be Maryanne? Aisha doesn't want to ruin Rose Blim's reputation by outing herself as the real white-haired spirit of Elmer, so she keeps quiet and decides to follow the crowds. She asks Rose and Lady Demont to call her Aina for the time being, and asks the maid at the door not to announce her when they enter. The door opens to the sound of cheering crowds, revealing a young girl with white hair and bright blue eyes, almost exactly like Aisha. Wait, what the heck is going on here? I really thought Maryanne had snuck her way in. Does this mean there are two spirit summoners in the Empire? Aisha is totally stunned. Fortunately, the girl isn't pretending to be her. She's actually the second daughter of Marquis Roland, Ashley Roland. You see, after the princess was discovered to be a spirit, the nobles became envious and wanted to see if their children had any potential. One day, a sorcerer was invited to teach Ashley and Chloe Demont and Rose Blim. The sorcerer said that Ashley could have the power to summon spirits, but they never saw her actually do it until today. While the other guests are awed by her powers, Aisha is just relieved she isn't Maryanne. I mean, if you think about it, there's no way Maryanne would show up somewhere so public in her enemy's empire. Plus, I'm pretty sure Maryanne isn't a water spirit like Ashley. The real question now is why she pretended to be a princess. Aisha asks her friends if she'd been acting strange at all lately, but they report that Ashley was the same as always when they last met her 2 days ago. It's clear that the three girls are very close, but Aisha senses something strange about her, and Lou literally said something was up as soon as they arrived. She summons her little fairy friend and asks her to take a closer look from above the crowd. It takes Lou literally seconds to realize Ashley is wearing an artifact, an item that can temporarily increase magical powers. That would explain why Aisha couldn't sense any power coming from her either. Magical artifacts are actually prohibited in the Elmer Empire. Since they can't react to the user's negative feelings and emotions, things can quickly go wrong. Plus, it's easy for other sorcerers to interact with the artifact and cause serious harm to the person using it. Long story short, it should not be in the hands of a child. Aisha thanks Lou for her service and sends her back to the spirit realm. But when she looks up, it's not Ashley she sees, but the man from her dream. Oh wait, I thought he was a spirit. What the heck is he doing at a random human ball? She's too preoccupied with Ashley to investigate his appearance. After overhearing her say that she's going to take a rest with her spirit, Aisha decides to follow. The artifact has started emitting a strange black light, a little reminiscent of the smoke that came out of that necklace Escardo wore back at the banquet. I don't know about you guys, but I'm almost certain it's black magic. With all the guests in the crowd, Aisha loses Ashley and ends up wandering through the corridors with the other girls in tow. Rose is stopped by her parents, who seem quite concerned about the way the ball is going. They're even more surprised once they meet Princess Aisha, but she doesn't have time to exchange pleasantries. She thanks them for the invite and quickly asks where the nearest guest room is. If Ashley has run out of mana, then the first place she'll go is somewhere private to recover, right? Little does she realize that Ashley actually noticed the princess back when she was doing her demonstration. Now she's totally freaking out, worried that the princess is going to punish her. Her water spirit, Nias, is also worried and begs her to take off the artifact, warning her of the danger. But Ashley wants to stay with her new spirit friend a little longer. Without the artifact, she wouldn't have enough power to summon her, so this is the only way they can stay together. It seems like wearing the artifact and gaining so much power in such a short amount of time made her confused. She didn't actually mean to impersonate Princess Aisha. People just misunderstood, and then she didn't really correct them. It felt good to be praised for the first time, since she's usually scolded by her mother. When this strange sorcerer appeared and encouraged her to become an elementalist, she was excited by the idea of becoming powerful. But she didn't want to wear the artifact. They just gave it to her and rushed off before she could say no. While she was looking at it, her mother came in and asked how her classes went with the sorcerer. Ashley told her she'd been complimented, but her mother didn't seem to care since she hadn't even summoned a spirit. What kind of mother is she? And why does she expect her daughter to have summoned a spirit on her first try? That would be impossible for anyone other than Aisha. Her horrible mother ordered her to keep studying and to prepare to meet the princess at the Bloom family ball. After that, Ashley was so desperate to prove herself that she gave in, wore the artifact, and well, the rest is history. Now she's hiding in the gardens, trying to avoid running into anyone while Aisha and the others search for her. Suddenly, Chloe has an idea of where she might be hiding. Aisha asks her to lead the way, but just as they're heading out, she catches sight of the blonde man again. Why is he always hanging around like that? Doesn't he have somewhere to be? Fortunately, he actually proves to be helpful, or kind of. He asks if they're looking for a white-haired girl and warns them that she's in a dangerous state since she used all her energy to summon a spirit. At this point, Aisha suddenly gets suspicious. If this guy knows he's in danger and clearly saw what happened, why didn't he do something? Aisha asks if he was the one who gave her the artifact, at which point Rose starts panicking. I guess the normal people still hadn't realized what's going on. Aisha asks him straight up who he is. He seemed very calm back in the ballroom, and he's obviously familiar with the world of spirits, so why didn't he stop her? The blonde man is super cold and says there's no reason he should have stepped in, saying it was all her choice. Excuse me? That girl is just a teenager. She doesn't know what she's doing. Aisha and the strange man are about to literally throw hands when suddenly they sense a strong pulse of energy from outside. Earlier, Ashley's mother found her in the garden. She showed her Nias, hoping her mother would be proud of her, but all she gave her was a slap. Seriously, what is this lady's problem? She's mad about the fact that her daughter impersonated the princess, but that wasn't her fault. She didn't give her one single compliment about summoning a spirit and just went straight back to the ball. Ashley was too exhausted to go back to the ball, so she tried to head somewhere quiet to rest. Instead, she ran into a group of sorcerers, including the one who gave her the artifact in the first place. This isn't gonna be good. The sorcerer compliments her abilities and asks if she enjoyed being mistaken for a princess. Poor Ashley feels awful. She knows she could have corrected the guests, but she just didn't want that praise and affection to disappear. She promises to go back to the ball and tell everyone the truth, that she's not a real spirit summoner and not the real princess. That's when the sorcerers get hella creepy. You see, this is why you should never mess with people wearing hoods. Instead of revealing the truth, they want her to keep up the pretense, to turn the lie into reality. Ashley tries to refuse, but the sorcerer only gets angrier. She seems to have lost faith in Ashley and offers to take back the artifact if that's really what she wants. But the poor girl really doesn't want to lose Nias. It's easy to forget, but when one summons a spirit, both parties make a contract and develop a strong bond very quickly. There's literally an invisible tether between them. The sorcerer laughs at poor Ashley for being scared to lose her new friend. Then she threatens her, warning the girl that being too greedy could get her hurt. She summons some kind of purple fireball and sends it shooting right towards her. Ashley braces for the worst, but at the last second, our hero shows up. No, not that useless blonde guy. It's Aisha, using her power to summon Limi to protect them. As if it's no big deal, she smiles over her shoulder at Ashley and introduces herself. Yeah, no big deal. Just the princess of the Elmar Empire coming to save your butt. Of course, Limi is powerful, but against 3 sorcerers all attacking at once, she starts to struggle. The sorcerers try to switch tactics and strike the other girls, who have arrived a few meters away with the blonde guy. Finally, the stranger proves his worth by protecting them against an attack. After that, the dark mages seem to realize they're outnumbered and disappear into the night. That was intense! The girls come running toward their bestie, asking if she's okay and yelling at her for being so reckless. Getting involved with sorcerers, accepting an artifact, even pretending to be the princess? She's had a pretty crazy couple of days. Chloe tries to stop Rose from popping off, but she's just worried about her friend. All of a sudden, Ashley snaps. They don't know anything about spirits, so why are they telling her off? She's only doing all of this to be loved and accepted by her mother. Chloe and Rose don't even need to try to be loved by their families. That really strikes a chord with Aisha, who remembers what it was like to be Alyssa, desperate for her mother's love. She tries to approach Ashley and gently asks her to take the artifact off, but she starts yelling again, refusing to lose the power she worked so hard to gain. She takes off, sprinting into the forest while the girls go running after her. Aisha's about to join them when the blonde guy stops her and says he has a question. Can't he see they're in the middle of something? As if that wasn't bad enough already, the question he wants to ask is why she's so involved with other people's lives. He must be some kind of sociopath. Apparently, he cannot understand why she's trying to help Ashley when she made all these decisions herself and even yelled at the princess. I guess he's the kind of person who only does things when there's something in it for him. If I was her, I would probably have kicked him by now. He is the only adult in this situation, plus he has magical powers, and yet all he's done is defend them from one little spell? Ugh, he's really getting on my nerves. Aisha calmly responds that she doesn't need a reason to help someone. If she's able to do something, then she will. Always. She points out that he also helped Rose and Chloe by defending them from the blast, even though it didn't benefit him. He didn't do that for his own sake, but just because he could. Yeah, I don't know, girl. I kinda think he was just defending himself. She tries to go after the others, but the stupid man calls her back again. To her shock, a golden bird appears above them, radiating light and energy. Finally, Mr. Useless has decided to help out and allows Aisha to borrow this bird so that she can take flight and search for the others from above. Okay, I take back what I said. Maybe he isn't completely useless. Aisha recognizes the bird as a great spirit named Ludion. He's incredibly powerful and also pretty huge, so the princess can climb on no problem. They take off, soaring through the sky over the Blim family mansion. She still feels a little emotional after hearing Ashley's outburst, and then her conversation with the blonde spirit summoner. Actually, part of the reason why she always wants to help is because back in her past life, no one ever reached out or tried to help her. But with the support of her new family, she's been able to achieve so much. That's why she wants to do the same for others. That's what makes her a real princess. She has such a pure heart. Luckily, it doesn't take long for Aisha to spot a small crowd forming near the fountains. Poor Ashley thinks her life is over. I mean, she did just yell at the princess. If it was Maryanne and not Aisha, she probably would have been killed already. She's on her knees, all scraped up and crying when the other girls start to gather behind her. Some of them still think she's a real princess and call for a doctor. The girl is about to turn around and own up to her lie when Aisha appears, right on time, descending from the skies like a literal angel. Which kind of comes in handy, since people are so impressed with Aisha's dramatic entrance that they forget all about the girl who tried to impersonate her. I mean, who wouldn't be excited about a giant golden bird? Aisha finally formally introduces herself to the guests, and suddenly the attention swings back to Ashley. The princess covers it all up, praising Ashley very publicly for practicing so hard in the forest. She tells her to take a break from summoning spirits and get some rest. Basically, she makes it look like Aisha loaned her some magic powers, since she heard Ashley was already very talented. It's pretty smart if you think about it. Now there won't be any questions about why she can't summon Nias again in future, and no one will find out about the artifact. The guests are kind of suspicious, but no one would dare question the Empire's one and only princess. She uses Lumi to heal Ashley's wounds and reassures her that parting ways with Nias. It's not like it's goodbye forever. Maybe if Ashley really works hard, she can bring her back with her own powers next time. It's a little emotional, but the girl agrees and finally takes off the artifact. In the same moment, the spirit disappears. At least she still has Rose and Chloe to take care of her. They seem like a pretty solid trio. Now that Aisha has saved the day as usual, she decides to head back to her villa/mansion. It's been a pretty long day, and they achieved a lot, but there are still several questions to answer. For one thing, they never found out who that guy was, and for another, the artifact is still emitting black light. She was expecting it to stop once Ashley took it off. While Aisha is staring at it, the blonde guy reappears out of nowhere and destroys the bracelet, suggesting it might be an accumulation of negative energy. As anyone would, Aisha leaps out of her chair, shocked to see him. This mansion is protected by magic, remember? Not just anyone can randomly appear on her balcony. When you add to the fact that he summoned a very high-class spirit like Ludion, well, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? This blonde sociopath is none other than the King of Light himself. Who knew Luminous was such a stone-cold meanie? I bet Aisha feels bad about yelling at him now. She changes her tone while Lu offers a formal greeting and then rushes to cuddle his cheek. Aisha apologizes for disrespecting him earlier. It was only because she was so worried about Ashley. Luminous forgives her and explains that she couldn't recognize him because he hid his powers on purpose. He also doesn't look exactly the same as he did in the dreams. He looks younger, like almost the same age as Aisha? He asks if she's okay since she used a lot of her power today. It seems like he's about to try and restore her mana, but Aisha is so embarrassed that the literal King of Light is touching her cheek that she shies away. I mean, you can't blame her. I know he's a super powerful spirit, but he is a little weird. When she asks about what happened earlier, Luminous explains that the sorcerers were using the artifact to collect negative energy from the ones who use it, as well as from the spirits they summon. Aisha is shocked and deeply concerned to hear this. Ever since she was born, she's been living side by side with spirits. Even before she could summon Lu, there were always specks of light surrounding her that she knew were on her side. So of course she cares about spirits just as much as humans. She asks if that was why Luminous came, because he was worried about sorcerers taking advantage of the spirit world. But he admits he also came to meet her. In reality, for once. He tells Aisha she's a very special person, as if she hadn't realized that by now. But is it just me, or is anyone else getting the sense that he's interested in her on a more personal level? He even gives her a bouquet to apologize for his attitude earlier. They're the same flowers that were growing on the cliff in her dream. So it was him. They can't be sure when the next they'll see each other, but I think we all know they'll meet again. For the next few days, Aisha resumes her holiday as scheduled, sightseeing and relaxing in the villa. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and now she's going home tomorrow. She's a little sad about not having made any friends, so when a maid comes to announce that Chloe, Rose, and Ashley are about to leave, she rushes out to say goodbye. They didn't realize she would be back to the palace so soon, so they decide to visit the southern capital together to celebrate their final day. Of course, since Aisha has lived in the palace all her life, she hasn't actually spent much time in busy cities like this. Everything seems lively and busy, and everywhere she looks there's something new to see. Ashley wants to buy some books about spirits. After their little adventure at the Bloom Mansion, they all want to try and learn to summon. Aisha gives them a little private lesson, advising them on the best books to pick. After a fun day exploring the town, they sit down for some cake in a precious little cottage. Aisha summons Lu so that she can try some, and Ashley opens up about what happened yesterday. She sincerely apologizes to the princess, but Aisha has already forgiven her for everything. All she asks is that in future, Ashley will work to get better on her own, without the help of artifacts. After all, Nias isn't really gone. Spirits are always with their masters. It's just that she can't see her now. That seems to reassure her quite a lot. At the end of their day out together, Aisha thanks the girls for taking her around the town and invites them to the Imperial Palace in future. Aw, look at that! She finally made some friends her own age! Finally, the moment comes when she has to leave this lovely southern paradise and return to her royal reality. She's already feeling sad about all the memories and people she's leaving behind. What she wasn't expecting was for Luminous to be sitting in the carriage waiting for her. See? I told you guys, he's interested in more than just her powers. After hearing her speak so warmly about spirits, he's decided to befriend her. What a pair! The King of Spirit World and the Princess of the Elmire Empire becoming besties? I can't wait to see how this turns out. While the two of them are getting friendly on the journey, the sorcerers from the ball are watching them roll away. And guess who's been their leader this whole time? None other than Maryanne. What was she doing all the way down here meddling with some random girl like Ashley? Completely unaware of her ex-sister's meddling, Aisha spends the journey trying to recover from the shock of hearing Luminous, King of Light, saying he wants to be friends with her. Not only is it a bit stressful, but she's also worried about what will happen if she returns to the palace with a strange boy. Yeah, I can't see that going down well with Isis. Although, Emily the maid couldn't see him, so maybe he'll stay invisible. Just in case, the princess decides to set some ground rules. They can be friends, but she still needs some privacy. Luminous has never heard that word before. Looks like this friendship is going to be more complex than he expected. He says he wants to be by her side all the time, which is kind of intense. And as a spirit king, that might be a little difficult. So he decides to create a human identity to explain his presence whenever they hang out. With the help of the magic portal system, they arrive back in the northern capital in no time at all. A whole fleet of servants are waiting for them, but the person Aisha is most excited to see is her brother Isis, who's coming to pick her up despite his very busy schedule. He's such a good sibling. Luminous seems particularly curious about the relationship between the two of them, and asks if Aisha really likes him that much. Of course she does! He's kind, strong, and irreplaceable. While Luminous is still wrapping his head around this whole human emotions thing, she rushes out of the carriage to find the man of the hour just arrived on horseback. He's just as excited to see her, leaping off his horse to give her a hug. He's pleased to see her looking so well after her holiday in the south, and promises to come visit the villa himself sometime in the future. Isis offers to come and ride the rest of the way to the palace in the carriage with her. Uh-oh, the maid couldn't see Luminous, but does that mean he's invisible for everyone? Apparently not. When Isis opens the door, his expression suddenly changes. He demands an explanation from Aisha, whose mind has gone totally blank. He looks like he's getting angry, so she rushes in between the boys and promises there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. She makes up a story about this guy being Lu's brother and calls him Rune. She assures Isis that he's a very nice boy and says there's a good reason they're riding in the carriage together, although she doesn't actually give him that reason. Oh dear. She has got to get better at lying! She waits anxiously for her brother's response, but he's unconvinced. He seems to think they have fallen in love at a party, and now Aisha has brought him back to be her husband. Oh gosh, this is exactly what she was afraid would happen! Luminous watches as the situation devolves between the siblings, and eventually decides to step in. He introduces himself properly as Luminous, which Isis takes as some kind of joke. Obviously, he wouldn't believe that this random blonde dude is actually the King of Light Spirits, so he leads Isis to believe that he's some kind of priest instead. The prince is still pretty suspicious, but he seems to believe this a lot more than the last excuse and reluctantly climbs in the carriage. The boys butt heads immediately. Clearly, Isis has an issue with him riding the same carriage as his sister, but Luminous refuses to go separately. Does anyone else get the feeling they're going to do this a lot? Isis insists on dropping this uninvited guest to the Temple of Light at once, hoping to get rid of him. Poor Aisha is sat in between them for the whole journey and nearly passes out from stress. Luckily, the boys are still in one piece when they arrive. Aisha bids Luminous an awkward goodbye, wanting to be polite but not wanting to give away his true identity. She watches him walk away through the window while Isis apologizes for the misunderstanding earlier. However, he does warn her not to ride in carriages with strangers in future, which actually is pretty good advice. Even if he is the god of light, he doesn't exactly seem trustworthy. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'm still hung up on all that stuff he said earlier. Anyway, although he's a little dramatic, Aisha can tell her brother was worried and apologizes for making him concerned. Even though she's vouched for him, Isis makes her swear in the name of the god of light that she won't get close to him. Oh, Isis, buddy, you have no idea what you're asking! Aisha obviously refuses and doesn't really explain why. When they eventually reach the palace, she has a huge wall of gifts brought back for her family. They went overboard with the villa, so she decided to pay them back with lots of little things that reminded her of them. Her parents are very proud and excited to hear that she even made some friends along the way. She promises to introduce them to her next banquet so they can meet the girls. It turns out her parents already heard about what happened at the ball, so they have a good idea of who exactly these friends might be. Aisha was a little worried about whether she did the right thing, considering the weight of her role as a princess, but her family are very proud of how she acted. They really are a fairy tale family. A few weeks pass by. With summer now in full swing, it's nearly time for one of the major festivals of the Elmar Empire. Ironically, it's actually a holiday dedicated to the god of light, since it's held on the longest day of the year. At this banquet, the head priest will make an appearance, as well as a new priest who has been causing quite a stir. He's said to be so powerful that he could even become the next pope. Can you guess who? Yup, it's Luminous. He's now going by the name that Aisha gave him, calling himself Rune and pretending to be a priest to fit the character he's invented. This is crazy. Does that mean he just sits in temples all day praying to himself? Actually, he also takes time out of that busy schedule to come and visit Aisha at the palace, totally unannounced as usual. Worried about rumors getting back to Isis, the princess asks her maids to clear out so he can stop hanging out on the balcony like a creep. Once he's inside, Aisha yells at him, asking if he's really the new priest everyone has been talking about. He seems surprised that she found out already. Since Aisha has been given the task of organizing the banquet alongside her mother, she had the guest list early. It turns out he wasn't even aiming to get recognized. He just showed the power of light to some priests for fun, and they ended up asking him to join them. Anyway, he actually came to ask how often they can see each other. He wants to respect her privacy, but hopes to visit every few weeks. Aisha agrees, though obviously she hopes he doesn't keep showing up on her balcony like this. She also apologizes for Isis's rudeness back when they first met. At this point, the princess is kind of wondering why the King of Light Spirits has been spending so much time here on Earth, but he just says he's curious. I guess it could get boring being in the spirit world all the time. When Lu wakes up from her nap, she gets the fright of her life seeing a literal deity have tea in their bedroom. She's so excited to see him in the human world that she asks 1,000 questions. But the one that's been on Aisha's mind the longest is suddenly answered when the subject of her dreams comes up. It turns out it wasn't actually Luminous she was seeing. Or not yet, anyway. He does frequently visit that cliff she saw, but the scene she described hasn't happened. Luminous thinks maybe the combination of their energies caused her to have a vision, or even a prophecy of some future event. That's kind of a crazy idea to drop on her out of the blue. Aisha desperately wants an explanation, but we already know Luminous isn't exactly the straightforward type. And just as she's about to ask him something else, her brother arrives outside her chambers, wondering why all the maids are hanging around outside. There's a chance Isis wouldn't notice her unannounced guest. Aisha's figured out that Luminous doesn't actually take a human form. His energy is so strong that for him, there's no distinction between being in the spirit and the material world. But she doesn't want to take the risk. Considering his reaction last time, I'd say that's the right choice. Luminous bids her goodbye, casually stepping out the window and disappearing. You know, as one does. Her brother comes in the next moment, asking why she wanted to be alone. She brushes it off, but he isn't convinced. I guess his instincts as a knight are too sharp because he can tell someone just came in. Uh-oh. He only calms down when Aisha points to Lu and says they were having tea together. Now that crisis is averted, the siblings head to the dining room where they're scheduled to have dinner with their parents. Aisha suspects something a little unusual is going to be announced, since her parents are usually too busy these days to have family dinner like this. Isis gives her a little hint, suggesting there might be a specially planned surprise at the upcoming banquet. Isis is determined to keep quiet, but the secret is out once they get to dinner. Her parents have decided at this banquet, Princess Aisha is going to debut. Wait, really? But she's only 14! Apparently, in this empire, it's not uncommon to debut in high society this early. Plus, since she's playing a big part in planning the event, her parents wanted her to take center stage. But they do offer to do it another day if she would be uncomfortable. For Aisha, it's a big decision. For a young girl, debuting is a huge deal. After she's been officially introduced to the nobles, she'll go around as she pleases, seeing friends and going out with an escort. Plus, she never got to debut when she was Alyssa, so this event is even more special. Of course, Aisha agrees, thanking her parents for the opportunity. Her father seems especially pleased and also announces that a new priest will come to bless her at the event. I think we all know who that's going to be. Well, she is the shining light of the Elmer Empire. Who better to bless her on her debutante than the god of light himself? Isis is going to have quite the shock when he turns up. Now she's more excited than ever about the midsummer banquet. Her mother is already planning her outfit. After all, it's her special day. She should be the prettiest girl in the Empire. After dinner, the mood changes a little when Isis and his sister take a walk in the gardens. After revealing what happened at the Blim Ball, she asked him to look into the artifact, particularly whether it came from outside their empire. Isis can't be sure, but it seems likely. In Elmer, artifacts have been forbidden for centuries, while in Edenbell, they have been secretly handed down for generations. And the teacher of the spirit class, the sorcerer who approached Ashley, was invited from Edenbell. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to put two and two together. Unfortunately, they have no proof, and no more clues to investigate. But there is one person who can confirm the origin of the artifact. Ashley. Aisha decides to invite her to the midsummer banquet so they can ask her some questions about the teacher/sorcerer who gave her the bracelet. She was going to invite her friends anyway. Now that she's going to be debuting, it will be even more special to have them there. But Aisha asks Isis to keep this whole thing a secret. If Ashley does confirm the link between Edenbell and the incident, then they should keep this whole thing on the down low. For one thing, she doesn't want Ashley to come under fire if it goes public. And for another, she doesn't want to tip off the Edenbell Empire that their suspicions are rising. Tension between the two nations is at an all-time high these days, with the truce having pretty much broken down ever since the poisoning. Timing is essential, so Aisha wants to move carefully to get as much information as possible before they strike. Looks like she hasn't forgotten about her revenge plan after all. Isis goes on to say how grown-up she seems when they talk about this kind of thing. His sister reminds him that this isn't her first life. That's why this age is such an important time. It's the first time in either life that she's going to turn 15. Soon, she will outlive Alyssa. I can't tell if that's exciting or heartbreaking. Isis's mood has become so serious that Aisha is worried he might have discovered something else in his investigation of the artifact. He says there's nothing to worry about, but look at that face! I love Isis, but just like his sister, he is not the best liar. Over the next few days, Luminous comes to visit a few more times, which means Aisha keeps sending her maids out and saying she wants to be alone. The house staff have started thinking she's hit puberty, if you get what I mean. When they raise the matter with Aisha, she gets all embarrassed and says they're wrong. Literally seconds later, her family burst in to ask the same question. Come on, people! Is there no privacy in this palace? She sets them straight right away, but no one quite believes her. Who knew that meeting with Luminous would cause such an embarrassing rumor? A few days later, Aisha is drowning in dresses, trying on style after style while the maids and seamstress fight over their designs. It makes it extra hard to pick when they get so emotional because she doesn't want to take sides. Exhausted, Aisha calls for a little break, grateful to have a cup of cool tea and some time to herself. She also receives letters from Rose, Chloe, and Ashley replying to her invitation. Rose's letter is just as chatty as she is in real life, while Chloe is as polite as always. Ashley's is a little more earnest. She's been doing better, despite her evil mother still being cruel. She's already guessed that Aisha wants to hear her testimony from back on the day of the ball, and also has something she wanted to discuss. Something that's been bothering her ever since. Well, that's suspicious as heck. Despite the shady situation with Edenbell, Aisha is truly looking forward to this banquet. All her friends are coming, as well as the great priest, his disciples, and the literal god of light himself. What more could a girl ask for? Plus, having Luminous bless her as a popular candidate to become the Pope will definitely catch the attention of the Edenbell Empire. The next day, the family meet with the current head priest to discuss the blessing, where they're formally introduced to Luminous, still going by Rune. Aisha's father seems to have a good feeling about this young priest. Until he starts talking back to him informally. Yikes, so much for his future career prospects. Fortunately, he corrects himself just in time, though he does keep looking slyly in Aisha's direction. Anyone who was watching closely would be able to tell there's something between them. Isis is doing a good job at holding his temper. She's kind of impressed that he's picked up the ability to communicate so naturally with humans in the last month or so. The only person he's been a little rude with is Isis, and well, I guess you can't blame him for that. They spend the rest of the meeting discussing preparations for the debutante, and afterwards, they take a walk through the gardens. Isis and Luminous have another tense interaction where the god of light treats him more like a kid than a crown prince. Aisha watches nervously from behind, walking beside the head priest, who has been speaking very highly of Luminous all day. He's also very proud of Aisha. Having known her since she was a child, he feels honored to have watched her grow into such a talented and graceful young princess. Aw, he seems like such a nice old man. That evening, Aisha is alone in her bedroom, trying to continue preparations for the banquet when she gets sleepy. Her head starts to droop, but before she can bang it on the desk, Luminous appears out of thin air and catches her. Okay, is it just me, or is anyone else starting to think he's actually always by her side and only chooses to show himself every once in a while? Aisha suddenly wakes up, flustered. She compliments him on how naturally he spoke today. Apparently, he just watched the way she interacted with people and quickly learned the rules of human society. I mean, he is a god after all. He suddenly asks if the people he met today are precious to Aisha. He was especially surprised to see her speaking so warmly with the head priest, even though he's not a member of her family. Although he's got the speech down, human relationships are clearly still a mystery to the king of light spirits. In the middle of a casual conversation about love and loved ones, Luminous suddenly remarks that there's still some darkness in her heart. Does that mean, can he see the truth about her past life? Aisha is so stunned that she doesn't know what to say. Luminous drops the subject and tells her to sleep, lightly poking her forehead. Was that a blessing? He's going to have to practice a lot if he doesn't want the banquet to be that awkward. The next morning, Aisha wakes up practically glowing, probably thanks to Luminous. She's also feeling full of energy and joy, though she hasn't forgotten what he said last night. Lucky for her, there are plenty of distractions. It's the day of her debut, and she still hasn't picked a damn dress. She still doesn't want to upset anyone, so Aisha shifts the decision to her mother, who is getting ready in the royal chambers. The princess spots a gorgeous white gown in the corner of the room, the dress her mother wore for her own debutante. Oh, come on. It would be criminal if she didn't wear that. Aisha becomes curious and asks her mother what that day was like all those years ago. When she was younger, Iris lived in the north, where it was always cold and snowy. She picked a day in the summer for the event, hoping to get some sunshine and a good turnout. But what do you know? It started to rain. She was so upset, almost no guests turned up, except the crown prince himself, who agreed to be her dancing partner and turned the whole day around. Wait, wouldn't he have been married at that time? I'm not sure the timelines are adding up here. Anyway, after hearing that story, Aisha just has to wear the dress. It even matches her eyes perfectly. On the day of the feast, Princess Aisha glides into view, radiant as moonlight in her white gown. Her beauty shines so brilliantly that Duke Vion can do nothing but fall silent. When she, with gentle grace, returns his praise, the Duke's composure shatters and a blush blooms across his cheeks. Sensing the faint unease beneath her smile, he leans closer in quiet concern. Aisha admits that her jewels weigh heavily upon her, and with a tender act of magic, Vion lifts the burden, weaving lightness into every gem. Now tell me, isn't this Duke the very definition of a green flag? And then, the long-awaited moment arrives. The hall stills, for the star of the Elmer Empire is to be presented. Princess Aisha, the jewel of her realm. She steps forward, hand in hand with Lord Rune, the priest of light. Together they seem like figures from a legend, a pair destined to shine. Gasps ripple through the grand hall as guests gaze upon them with awe, their admiration spilling over like waves of wonder. Rune himself stands tall and resplendent, carrying the dignity of a man chosen by fate, while beside him, Aisha glows with unmatched radiance. From the royal seats, the Emperor's gaze lingers on the gown his daughter wears. Recognition stirs memories deep within him of the Empress's own debut, a day nearly lost to sorrow yet saved by his presence. The Empress reveals that it was Aisha's wish to don the treasured dress, for it carries the story of her parents' love. And so, the Emperor and Empress look upon their daughter with hearts overflowing. Aisha reaches the end of the aisle, bowing gracefully with reverence before them. The Emperor rises, blessing his daughter with pride and tenderness, and with his signal, the feast begins. The long-awaited moment arrives. Princess Aisha is about to receive Luminous's blessing. Kneeling before Lord Rune, Aisha bows with reverence as he extends his hand. In an instant, a radiant brilliance bursts across the hall, a light so blinding that the guests gasp in awe. It is a moment of wonder, a blessing that crowns Aisha's coming of age with divine splendor. Lifting her gaze, Aisha beholds Rune's ethereal face. Her eyes filled with admiration. He, in turn, looks down upon her with a softness that seems to transcend the sacred light. When the glow fades, the Empress rises and declares it is time for the debutante's first dance. But then comes a surprise. She suggests that Rune himself should be Aisha's partner. At once, Prince Isis protests, his voice stern. He insists that as her brother, it is he who deserves the honor of her first dance. Tension brews between them, yet Aisha gently laughs to ease the storm. With a tender smile, she chooses her brother, and the music begins. As they dance, Aisha's heart brims with affection. She thanks her brother for his steadfast love and whispers that he must never leave her side. But before she can hear his reply, the music fades, leaving her words suspended in the air. The next to step forward is the red-haired Duke Vion. Shy and flustered, he rubs the back of his neck, cheeks burning, before taking Aisha's hand. Yet to everyone's surprise, the graceful Duke falters. He does not know how to dance. Laughter ripples through the crowd, not unkind, but filled with warmth. For even the man who seems flawless reveals his human side on the dance floor. How cute! When they return to the aisle, the Crown Prince cannot resist a teasing remark, his frown softened by mischief as he jests at Vion's clumsy steps. But then, the hall hushes once more. Rune steps forward. With a noble grace, he extends his hand toward Aisha. His voice carries through the hall as he declares that he never refused the Empress's suggestion after all. The air stirs with excitement, and hearts flutter as the princess places her hand in his. This is like a moment that feels written in the stars. Ah! Contrary to the joy that fills the hall, the Crown Prince's expression darkens, his face shadowed with the look of one ready to strike Rune where he stands. Yet even that fiery glare cannot stop the Priest of Light from taking Aisha's delicate hand. Flustered, Aisha dares to ask if he truly knows how to dance, timidly addressing him as Sir Luminous. Rune's gaze softens, his voice gentle as he corrects her that it should be Rune. Well, the Rune privilege is not for everyone, for it was Aisha who first bestowed it. After the splendid dance with Rune, Aisha makes her quiet escape when Rose, Ashley, and Chloe cross her path, their eyes alight with joy. They greet her warmly, their voices bubbling with congratulations. Turning to Ashley, whose silver hair gleams like moonlight, Aisha inquires about her research on spirits and offers to share her own books to aid her studies. Deeply moved, Ashley smiles with heartfelt gratitude. Yet their conversation soon drifts towards a figure shrouded in mystery, Ashley's so-called master. Ashley recalls the day she first met her master, who suggested that she might one day become a spirit. For Ashley, whose heart aches for the love of her mother, the offer is both a temptation and a promise. To bind her even more, the master revealed a peculiar vintage accessory, an artifact said to mark one as a spirit of Elmer. I can smell danger brewing. Oh no! And before Ashley could fully grasp what had happened, her master vanished, disappearing like the wind after placing the strange object into her hands. As Ashley recounts her story, Aisha's intrigue deepens, especially when she hears of the master's appearance, white hair and red eyes. The description stirs a vivid image in her mind, one she cannot easily ignore. Ashley, her voice trembling, goes on to tell Aisha details of her encounter with the master. Aisha stiffens, worry flashing across her features. An uneasy realization begins to take shape in Aisha's heart. Though she longs to act, she dares not endanger those around her. With calm resolve, she discreetly instructs Ashley to visit the Imperial Library. Together, the two walk side by side, Ashley's eyes wide with awe at the towering shelves and ancient books. They pause before a section veiled in silence, where Aisha reaches for a heavy volume. As she turns its pages, her breath catches as her prayer is answered. There, written in black ink, lies the truth. The words send shivers through her. At once, her thoughts leap to the Princess of Edenbell. No, not a princess at all, but the dark archmage Maryanne. Silver hair, crimson eyes. There is no mistake. She is the master Ashley spoke of. Aisha's hands tremble, the book quivering in her grasp. Sensing her distress, Ashley instinctively reaches out, only to falter when she's reminded of the unspoken rule that commoners must not touch nobles. Yet Aisha, seeking solace, leans gently against Ashley's shoulder, drawing quiet strength from her warmth. When at last they step out of the library, Aisha casts a grateful glance at Ashley, her heart touched by the girl's kindness and courage. Before long, Rose and Chloe find them, their laughter carrying the sweetness of youth. Excitement stirs as they speak of the Lantern Festival soon to come, a night everyone eagerly awaits. But as Aisha trails just a step behind, her joy falters. A familiar voice echoes in her ears. In the Crown Prince's study, Isis and Vion speak in hushed tones, their words heavy with the fate of kingdoms. They discuss the rising tension between Rioten and Edenbell, knowing well that should Edenbell succeed in its conquest, Elmer will be caught in peril's grasp. Concern sharpens their voices, but what drives Isis most is not politics. It is his longing to protect Aisha, to avenge her suffering, and to grant her the beautiful life she so deserves. Whispers of war weigh on their hearts. Should the ruler of Edenbell march into battle himself, Isis knows he must rise to meet him for the honor and safety of Elmer. Yet even as they weave their plans, a sudden noise shatters the quiet as a sharp bang from beyond the chamber door is heard. Startled, Isis investigates, only to find Aisha lingering in the shadows, caught in the act of eavesdropping. With no choice left, he ushers her inside and allows her to hear the truth of their discussion. But Aisha's heart is firm. She pleads for her brother to abandon the thought of joining the battlefield. If Elmer's sole heir were to risk his life in war, the Empire would stand on fragile ground. More than that, Isis is not merely a prince to her. He is her only brother, and she cannot bear the thought of losing him. Isis, deeply moved, draws Aisha into his arms, cradling her trembling frame as he whispers words of comfort. With courage blazing in her eyes, Aisha reveals what she has uncovered. The artifact's source lies in Edenbell, and as a nymphish, she knows she possesses the power to act. If it means protecting her brother and safeguarding those she loves, she will endure the harshest training, shed sweat, blood, and tears without hesitation. After some time, Duke Vion gently escorts Aisha from the Crown Prince's study, allowing Isis a moment to gather his thoughts. As they walk the palace corridors, Aisha's mind races with shadows of doubt. Maryanne, the looming war. What if she cannot overcome the warlock child who threatens their world? Sensing the storm in her heart, Vion breaks the silence. With quiet warmth, he speaks of the Lantern Festival soon to come. He assures her that whatever wish she entrusts to the light, it will be granted, for the God of Light is ever watchful over her. His words soothe Aisha's spirit like a calming breeze. After their talk, Vion excuses himself, leaving Aisha to her thoughts beneath the twilight sky. Back within the study, the Crown Prince and the Duke resume their grim discussion. The tides of war rise higher with each passing day, and they must prepare for what threatens to engulf their empire. Meanwhile, outside the palace walls, Aisha drifts into her thoughts. The night air is cool, the silence deep, until Rune appears with his calm and comforting presence. He senses the heaviness in her heart and asks what troubles her. Aisha's voice trembles as she admits the truth. The past still chains her in darkness, and she longs to break free, to step into the light. With a newfound resolve burning in her chest, she lifts her gaze to Rune and declares her intent. She will summon Luminous, Rune himself. Though her dream seems distant, Aisha affirms with steady resolve that she will endure anything, no matter how arduous, to summon Luminous. But Rune, knowing the perils that such a vow might invite, questions her. Could she not simply bask in the joy she has now? The happiness born from her past and nurtured by her family's love? For Aisha, that warmth feels like the shade of an umbrella, shielding her from the burning sun. Yet even in that comfort, her heart whispers that she will only be at peace when she severs the cruel bonds of her past and claims the revenge she has long yearned for. Bathed in the silver moonlight, Aisha lifts her gaze to the heavens and vows to grow strong enough that no hand, no shadow, will ever brush against the hem of her loved ones' lives. As her declaration fades into the starlit sky, the Lantern Festival begins to bloom. Across the Empire, lights drift upward, glowing like 1,000 hopes woven into the fabric of night. Every lantern bears a prayer, a wish, a dream, soaring toward the night sky. Amidst the beauty, Aisha stumbles suddenly, tumbling softly to the ground. Her family rushes to her side in alarm, yet to their surprise, she only lifts her head with a sluggish smile. Their worried faces melt into laughter when they realize the truth that their precious princess is drunk. By morning, the palace halls are alive with cheerful voices. The imperial family cannot help but tease Aisha, recounting her adorable, tipsy display with fond laughter. Days pass, and Aisha stands in the palace fields, her spirit companions Lu and Remy flitting at her side. Stretching her arms, she steadies her breath and calls upon her magic. With elegance and might, she draws her golden bow. In one fluid motion, she releases the arrow, and boosh! Light erupts in a dazzling burst, striking the great tree with such force that it shakes the ground and blinds the eyes with brilliance. After countless rounds of training, her body gives in to weariness. She collapses onto the soft grass and falls with exhaustion. Her mind drifts, unbidden, to the image of the Priest of Light, and as if her thoughts had summoned him, Rune suddenly appears above her, crouched so close his presence eclipses the sky. Well, it seems her summoning practice is far more effective than she imagined. With gentleness, Rune extends his hand. Aisha's fingers slip into his, and he helps her rise, his voice calm as he tells her they must go somewhere. Soon, the two wander the bustling capital, cloaked in disguise. Yet no matter how they try to dim their brilliance, heads still turn. Such radiance cannot be hidden. But then an idea sparks in Aisha's mind. She pulls Rune into a boutique, mischief dancing in her eyes. Moments later, the fitting room curtain sways aside. And there he stands. Rune steps forward, his golden hair now dark, his form cloaked in a new style that transforms him entirely. Yet not even a change of color can dim the grace in his features. He is still striking, still impossibly handsome, even in disguise. Aisha's breath catches, and for a fleeting moment, she wonders if any mask could truly ever hide Rune's light. With their freshly improved disguises, Rune and Aisha stroll through the capital, brimming with new confidence that at last they'll blend in. But truly, who are they fooling? Their brilliance cannot be hidden. To ease their dilemma, Rune finally sighs and calls upon his magic, weaving an optical illusion around them. Only then do the wandering stairs soften and they pass through the streets more freely. As they wander, Aisha's steps falter, her gaze snagged by something peculiar. There, upon a stage, stands a mimic dressed as her, imitating the princess as the light spirit, complete with props of Lu and Remy. Heat floods her cheeks and she wishes the earth would swallow her whole. Worse still, Rune notices at once, his golden eyes glimmering with mischief as he regards her with a teasing smile. Flustered, Aisha hastily pulls him away toward the food stalls scattered along the square. But their escape halts before a stall where fragrant sausages sizzle. As they wait, a frail child approaches, her eyes wide with hunger. Not only for herself, but for the siblings she whispers about, waiting at home. Aisha's heart softens. Without hesitation, she purchases every sausage at the stall and offers them to the child so that she can share it with her family. Joy lights the child's face as she eagerly leads them toward her humble home. Yet in their small journey, fate quietly intervenes. One of Aisha's earrings slip loose, falling unnoticed into the alley's shadow. She walks on unaware, but someone else notices. From behind, a young man with hair the color of fresh spring leaves stoops to retrieve the jewel. He lifts it delicately, curiosity sparking in his eyes as the gem glints in the light. Intrigued by its beauty and by the mystery of its owner, he decides that he must seek her out. After some time, Aisha and Rune arrive at the little girl's humble home. Inside, two more children wait, her siblings. The youngest beams at the sight of the guests, her dusty cheeks glowing as her gaze lands on the food they carry. Her stomach growls in hunger, loud enough to echo in the small room. Without hesitation, Aisha and Rune begin distributing the sausages, hoping to ease the children's hunger. But one pair of eyes remains hard and unyielding. The eldest, Eden, watches them with suspicion. Her voice is sharp as she questions their intentions, throwing words like stones at the two visitors. Aisha's heart twists. Her eyes wander around the shabby home. It looks as though time itself has abandoned this place. The little girl then speaks, revealing the truth that they are not siblings by blood, but by fate. Aisha's smile warms as she offers gentle words, yet Eden's hostility only grows, her accusations cutting deeper. The princess falters. Despite her sincerity, her kindness cannot pierce Eden's wall of distrust. Heavy-hearted, Aisha decides it's best to leave. Together with Rune, she turns toward the door, ready to leave. But fate does not release them so easily. Eden, realizing too late the weight of her harsh words, runs after them, her lips trembling with the apology she longs to speak. Yet as she rushes outside, she collides with someone. A fine young man with spring green hair steadies her. In his hand glimmers a delicate jewel, Aisha's earring. Clothed in worry, Aisha and Rune rush to Eden's side. Yet even in her haste, Aisha's eyes linger curiously on the green-haired stranger. His face is unfamiliar. The young man explains himself, holding up a delicate earring. He admits that he followed its owner, hoping to return it, which led him here. With a soft smile, he crouches towards Aisha, his expression warm, almost playful. But before he can come too close, Rune steps forward, blocking the young guy with his slender and authoritative hand. Authority sharpens his tone as he warns the stranger to back off. Aha. Back inside the humble home, Eden bows her head, shame written all over her face. Aisha's gaze softens at once until her eyes fall upon a scratch on Eden's leg. Concern washes over her. Turning discreetly to Rune, Aisha asks him to take the green-haired stranger outside. Only then she summoned the quiet glow of her power. Her hands radiate with light as she eases the girl's pain, careful not to heal the wound completely, just enough so no one suspects her secret. When asked why she ran after them, Eden finally lifts her tear-brimmed eyes. Her voice trembles as she admits the truth that she only wanted to apologize. Aisha's lips curve into a tender smile, just as Eden's siblings burst into tears, throwing their arms around their sister in a heartfelt embrace. But the warmth of the moment is cut short. The door creaks open. The green-haired young man steps back inside as he announces the storm raging outside. The rain continues to pour in heavy sheets. Rune turns to Aisha with a gentle smile, asking if she can make the rain stop. The way he says it, so casual as if asking her to fetch an umbrella, makes her stifle a laugh. But deep down, Aisha knows the truth. Rune could end the storm in a heartbeat if he wished. He is no ordinary man. He's a powerful being from another world. Before she can dwell on the thought, Rachel, the youngest of the children, bursts outside with a squeal of delight. She twirls under the downpour, her small hands outstretched, her face glowing with pure joy as the rain kisses her cheeks. The innocence of her laughter proves infectious. One by one, the others follow, stepping out into the storm. Soon, the shabby yard transforms into a stage of wonder. They dance, splash, and spin beneath the silver drops, their hearts beating as if the rain itself breathes life into them. After sharing this fleeting but magical moment, the guests know it's time to go. They bid farewell to the children, their smiles carrying warmth and sincerity. As they make their way home, the group pauses at a crossroads. Here, they must part ways with the green-haired stranger. Before they go, Aisha introduces herself. In turn, the young man bows slightly and introduces himself as Aldi. With a playful grin, he flashes her earring and declares that he will keep it as a memory of their meeting. But as Aldi walks away, his smile fades into thought. His mind circles back to the moment in the children's home when Aisha's light eased Eden's pain. His curiosity deepens. Before his musings can take root too deeply, a new voice cuts through the rain, which turns out to be his sister. With urgency in her tone, she reminds him of their true destination, the Grand Palace of Elmer. What can possibly unfold after this? During the autumn season, Aisha and Isis receive proposal letters from the Debutant family. They plan to pay a visit too, but before they can process the prospect of marriage, their father informs them that he has no plans of giving his blessing. He is going to reject the proposals. In her study, Aisha looks over documents about the prince and Almana. The prince, with light green hair and purple eyes, is a quiet man who enjoys art. She remembers someone with the same name who once took her earrings. But then again, it can't be. The Debutant delegation isn't supposed to arrive until next week anyway. What if Aldif is the person she met in the capital back then? Later, Aisha joins the summer banquet and prepares for her duties at the palace and with high society. At the salon, the ladies chat non-stop, but the conversations flow as if in circles. They giggle about Priest Rune's looks and ask where he is. He is definitely charming and dashing like a knight in shining armor. Curious, the ladies ask Aisha who she likes best among Rune, Lord Vion, and Isis. After all, they all have their own charms, talents, and skills that all noble ladies admire. When she doesn't answer, they change the subject. They want to know each of the three men's ideal type. Soon enough, her time with the ladies comes to an end. But as she bids them farewell, she promises to tell them the men's ideal type at their next meeting. Arriving at the palace, Aisha is surprised to be greeted by Prince Aldif Riotin. Looking at him, she confirms that he's the man met in the capital. She's surprised it's him. It really is a small world, though she isn't sure if he recognizes her. He smiles gently and hands her a document he picked up from the floor. Reading through it, Aisha explains that it's a document for a children's welfare project, inspired by her encounter with Karena and her kids. She wants to help children, especially those without parents, and give them the future they deserve through education. Aldif says the idea is noble and that the Elmer Kingdom is known for caring for its people. He shares that he also wants to build a place for children living in poor housing. His calm and gentle voice shows how sincere he is. Suddenly, a servant announces the arrival of Isis and Princess Almina of Riotin. Aldif quickly apologizes for coming ahead of them, even though they had planned to meet together. His honest and slightly shy apology makes him even more charming. When they go to meet Isis and Almina, Aisha is stunned by the sight. Her brother looks like he wants to escape as Almina feeds him strawberries one by one. He sits stiffly, clearly unable to say no, while Almina smiles with pride. It looks like the other one is in love, but the other looks like he didn't get the memo. As they share tea, Almina and Aldif use their charm like a trap for both Aisha and Isis. Aisha can't help but think that even if her father said the proposal was just a formality, it was sent with sincerity. Although the Duchy of Riotin is said to be a friend and ally through a signed military alliance, such alliances can shift depending on international situations. No matter how much they say that the first Grand Duke of Riotin was once a prince who broke away from the Elmer Empire 100 years ago, that blood has faded. To strengthen the alliance, either the princess or prince of Riotin must marry into Elmer. A national marriage with the great Elmer Empire would secure the strong rear their kingdom longs for. After their conversation, both Riotin siblings leave to prepare for the banquet, leaving Aisha and Isis alone. Isis seems drained, showing complete disinterest toward Almina. But out of the blue, Aisha asks what Lord Vion's ideal type is, making her brother freeze in place. Isis didn't see that coming. As much as he wants to avoid answering, he starts speaking but quickly changes the topic, wondering about Aisha's interactions with Rune. Aisha answers her brother's questions, but he asks another question she doesn't expect. What's Priest Rune's ideal type? Aisha is stunned. Why would her brother ask such a thing? Her mind scrambles, piecing together fragments like a puzzle. She slams the table, exclaiming that he can't possibly like Rune, even if he does have his charms. It's as if she finally solved the puzzle. Isis is shocked at her outburst. He tries to speak, but Aisha's thoughts spin wildly. Does her brother have feelings for the priest? Both sit frozen in the misunderstanding until they finally calm down and clear it up. They're both wrong. Her brother then states Lord Vion's ideal type, a woman with upright thoughts and a strong will. He also shares the type of woman he likes, listing so many qualities as if he has thought deeply about it. Still, after all that, Aisha teases him Rune, much to Isis's horror. Sometime later, after the meeting about programs for the people, Aisha's mother asks about the Riotin delegation and whether they were welcomed properly. Aisha talks endlessly, saying how she pities her brother if Almina ends up marrying him. She then begs her mother to refuse such a marriage. Her mother, though, gently reminds her that it is up to Isis to decide whom he will marry. Deep inside, Aisha wishes her brother could build a happy family with a good spouse. Her mother senses her sadness and comforts her with warm words. Even if Isis builds a family one day, his love of his own family remains. Aisha will always be her brother's happiness. She realizes with a soft smile that her brother's ideal type is just like their mother, a woman who's smart, elegant, and kind. Later, Aisha prepares carefully for the banquet, making even her servants question if something important is yet to transpire. Honestly, Aisha wants to look her best tonight, not just for herself, but to challenge Almina's charms and judge for herself if the princess deserves her brother. Elsewhere, Aldif recalls his meeting with the high-ranking nobles. Their kingdom is weakening. They need military strength. The only way is through a national marriage. As much as he wants to marry for love, duty demands otherwise. When Aisha finally finishes getting ready, Aldif escorts her to the banquet. She notices the heaviness in his eyes, as if something troubles him deeply. She can only wonder what happened. At the banquet, many noble ladies whisper about Isis's ideal type, feeling discouraged. One lady quietly says she's glad that she didn't know Isis's type, or she would feel the same disappointment. Just then, Isis and Almina make their entrance, bright and lively as ever. Before Aisha, Almina praises the kingdom openly, saying she wants to stay because of how magnificent it is. She's literally giving hints that she wants to marry Isis. How else can she stay in the palace? Aisha notices the tone and responds with a polite counter mentioning her intentions about national marriage. This makes the princess falter and hold her head as if from experiencing a headache. Concerned, Aisha suggests she rest, separating her from Isis. This almost makes Almina choke. She tries to refuse, but even Isis is agreeing with Aisha. Well, that's the consequences of your own actions. Moments later, Aisha notices a familiar face from behind her. It's Lord Vion. Later on, Lord Vion arrives at the banquet and begins exchanging pleasantries. Even from afar, he recognizes Aisha's voice, which amuses Aisha. She questions him if recognizing her voice is his special skill. Beside her, Aldif notices Vion's gaze. As if out of spite, Aldif motions closer to Aisha, whispering something in her ear despite her conversation with Vion. I'm sensing a love triangle. The music starts playing and Aldif offers Aisha a dance. During the dance, he greets her with a gentle nose-to-nose touch, a custom in his homeland. Isis and Lord Vion both witness the gesture and immediately step in, reminding Aldif that traditions here are different and should be respected. Just then, the sound of excitement ripples through the hall as Rune arrives, greeting everyone with a graceful smile. Aisha sighs inwardly. He truly knows how to charm a crowd. What a beauty he is! Rune walks towards them, and his first remark is noting how Aldif looks unwell. His straightforwardness appalls Aisha. He could stir trouble with that mouth. Before everything escalates, she excuses herself to speak with Rune outside. But before she leaves, Vion quietly places his coat on her shoulders, saying that the evening air is cold. The small gesture warms her cheeks. Outside, Aisha reprimands Rune briefly, but more than that, she's curious about his ideal type. By ideal type, she means the qualities of someone he likes. Unexpectedly, Rune just looks at her calmly and says she's his ideal type. His bold confession makes Aisha freeze in shock. Act cool, Aisha. Don't let him know you're flustered. Heat floods her cheeks as Rune explains he only answered honestly, completely serious. She quickly decides she'll tell the others he has no ideal type before this spreads and causes chaos. Just as they're about to return, Rune suddenly asks why she hasn't spoken of Ronian after all her failed attempts. The question makes her stop in her tracks. The words strike deep, and Aisha feels the weight of what's coming. Aisha recalls the countless times she tried to summon Ronian. Lu continues training to develop spirit affinity, but no matter how hard Aisha and Lu work, every attempt ends in failure. Each failure chips away at her confidence, leaving her feeling hollow inside. Rune watches her quietly, then speaks with calm certainty. He knows when she uses her power and wonders why she hides it. Aisha exhales slowly, admitting she doesn't want anyone to know her struggles, that all her efforts have amounted to nothing. She clenches her hands, questioning what is missing, but Rune's voice is gentle as he reassures her. He promises that he will always be there for her, even if this is something she must accomplish alone. A small smile tugs at his lips as he reminds her that the answer she seeks is already close by, so she shouldn't give up no matter what. His words warm her heart. He then asks her to come to him when the time is right. Aisha returns his smile, promising she will reach his level someday and all he needs to do is wait. As always, Rune is amazed by Aisha's kind heart. He beams with quiet pride for her. They walk back toward the banquet together, and Aisha gently returns the coat to Vion. For a moment, Vion's eyes linger on her before he blurts out, almost too quickly, an answer to her question earlier that night. The reason he's able to recognize her voice, it's not through magic, but because it's unmistakably hers. The words hang in the air, warm and earnest, before he turns away abruptly, leaving her stunned by the sudden confession. Sounds like a confession to me. Meanwhile, far away, Almina sits alone in her room, noting down every word Isis spoke earlier. Her obsession burns silently, her determination sharper than ever. During tea time, Almina wastes no time. She asks Aisha directly for help in marrying Isis. The boldness in her tone almost makes Aisha choke, but she steadies herself. There is no way she'll help the princess win her brother's hand. When charms fail, the princess turns to logic, speaking of alliances and strong ties between kingdoms. Her words sound practiced, filled with the desperation of someone grasping for survival. Aisha's gaze hardens. National marriage may be built on national interest, but ultimately, Aisha values her brother's happiness just as much. But then Almina speaks from her heart. If war breaks out, her country will vanish. She cannot allow her people to suffer. She admits she may not guarantee Isis's happiness, but she will do everything to protect it. For the first time, Aisha sees a woman stripped of pride, clinging only to loyalty for her homeland. Still, only Isis can decide his future, and she's willing to do anything for her homeland even if she has to get married without love. Aisha helps her through, giving hints of Isis's ideal type. When Almina learns his ideal type, her shoulders sink in quiet defeat. Aisha, moved by the sight, gently offers a solution. Tips to match his ideals, even suggesting a quick makeover. That's girlhood right there. When Aisha finishes Almina's makeover, the shift in Almina's demeanor and overall appearance is so unexpected that even Aldif can't recognize his sister. Later that day, Aisha meets with Aldif to review his proposal on cultural education projects. His ideas are thorough and well-planned, proof of how much thought he put into this, perhaps to get on Aisha's good side. Aisha praises his efforts sincerely, feeling grateful for his support. Meanwhile, the garden glows under the warm sun as Isis strolls with Almina. She seems different today, calm, elegant, composed, nothing like her usual vibrant self. When she mentions that Aisha told her about his ideal type, the prince raises a brow, amused. He insists he never truly had a type. It was just a random topic between him and Aisha. But Almina presses on, wanting him to see her in a new light. But to her surprise, Isis explains that there's nothing more attractive than the courage of showing your true self. His voice is like a gentle breeze, and Almina is disarmed by his wisdom. For a man admired for his beauty and strength, his sincerity carries weight. To have a man who will accept you for who you are is rare. A while later, Almina shares Isis's words with Aisha over tea. Her eyes glimmer with newfound resolve. She'll stay true to herself, no matter the outcome. For the first time, Aisha admires her honesty and courage. Moved by her sincerity, Aisha also plucks the courage to show her true self, her vulnerable self. Speaking to Almina, she finally admits her repeated failures of summoning the Spirit King. The weight she carried slipped free with trembling honesty. Almina listened in silence, her resolve hardening. She would find a way to help, even if it meant defying every rule. Later that day, Almina arrives carrying an armful of books on magic and spirits, insisting Aisha take them. She even offers her assistance, drawing on her knowledge of ancient languages to make sense of the texts. Days blur into nights as the two sit together, surrounded by ink, parchment, and old pages. Aisha clings to hope that somewhere within these words lies a clue to summon a high-ranking spirit. Along the way, they discover writings about magical devices capable of storing and channeling spirit power. As another day slips into night, Aisha closes her last book and glances at the princess, gratitude swelling in her chest. If Isis could see her like this, calm, genuine, and earnest, he would truly admire her. No, these two are getting closer and closer. Then something catches her eye, a folded sheet hidden between the brittle pages of a worn book. She draws it out with care, its surface worn and ink faded with time. With Lu's help, the cryptic script unravels, a warning etched in the secret language of spirits. It speaks of summoners sabotaging one another, of summoning rites twisted into battlegrounds, and worse, failures so grave they strip magicians of their powers forever. A chill runs down Aisha's spine as she stares at the letter, wondering who wrote it, and who its message was meant to reach. That night, Almina moves through the silent halls, her footsteps soft against the cold marble floor. The palace lies draped in moonlight, still and watchful, as a faint glow draws her toward the balcony. There, her brother sits, framed by the night sky, bent over a table scattered with papers, silver light brushing his sharp profile. He lifts his head at her approach, his expression easing as he remarks on her tireless help to Aisha. The words hold curiosity, perhaps even admiration, lingering beneath his usual composure. She sits on the opposite side, letting the silence stretch before confessing how deeply Aisha's resolve has moved her. Instead of using Aisha and her kingdom as they once intended, it feels as though they are the ones being changed. The girl's unyielding strength has left its imprint, stirring something unexpected in them both. Aisha's light truly is a beacon of hope to those she meets. Even Almina can't deny that. Noticing the dim lighting, Almina produces a magical device that lights up the room so her brother can read the papers properly. It's Aisha's contraption, something she lent to Almina. Now, Almina wants her brother to use it too. Aldif studies the soft radiance, and for a long moment his thoughts drift from matters of war to the woman who crafted such quiet brilliance. The magical device, born from Aisha's own hands, draws him in completely. Its quiet glow stirring something deep within that he cannot yet name. The following day, Almina and Aisha step into the old temple, its vast halls glowing with serene light. It is their first visit since the grand expansion, and the air hums with gentle warmth. Every step forward feels like crossing into a sacred dream. As they walk deeper, the silence carries whispers of power, and something unseen calls to Aisha. The pull leads her to the heart of the temple, where a small altar gleams under a brilliance so bright it's almost blinding. Her breath catches. Perhaps this is a place strong enough to summon the Spirit King. She turns to Almina and asks for one thing: keep everyone away so she can focus. Then Aisha kneels before the altar, her lips weaving ancient words into the air. Then a surge of light bursts upward, blazing across the heavens like a star reborn. Almina shields her eyes, heart pounding with hope, believing Aisha has done it. But when the brilliance fades, Aisha collapses, trembling and whispering fragments of failure as shadows close around her mind. Her despair deepens until Almina grips her shoulders and speaks, her voice firm yet warm, telling her to believe, because there are those who believe in her. The words strike something hidden, and memories flood back. Dark days when she wanted to give up, and the light that saved her. Clarity breaks through like dawn as Aisha rises and sprints from the temple, wind lashing her cheeks. Out in the vast green field, she throws her voice to the sky with everything she has left. The heavens answer. Radiance shatters the clouds as the Spirit King descends, majestic and eternal. With deep and genuine joy, Aisha smiles. She's finally summoned him. All that's left now is to make a soul contract with the Spirit King that binds power to her soul. A joyous moment for Aisha and Almina, the pair ecstatic of Aisha's achievement and of their praises for the other. However, their moment gets interrupted. Both are called back to the palace, for Almina, along with her brother, is called back to Rioten due to an issue of defending their borders. Though initially dejected at their sudden separation, Aisha strengthens herself and bravely calls Rune to lift them back to the palace. While in the skies, Aisha gifts Almina a feather, along with a promise of unconditional support, princess to princess, should she ever ask for it. Of course, Almina's overjoyed. When they land, a crowd has gathered, and among them, Isis. The Rioten prince greets Aisha, who told him no explanation is needed for their sudden departure. He instead told her of his recent visit to his friend, particularly to someone who got healed spectacularly from a severe wound, correctly deducing it to be Aisha, whom he calls Sasha. With that, he thanks her for helping him change for the better, and promises a joint venture with Elmer once Rioten stabilizes. Almina, on the other hand, is called by Isis. He awkwardly asks permission to see her when everything's okay. She can't help but blush. Of course it's okay, but he has to recognize her, as she'll be a full-fledged Rioten princess by then. He happily accepts her condition as he watches amongst the crowd when the Rioten carriage departs. Aww, let's hope it's not the end of their love story. In the carriage, though the Rioten prince and princess admit the marriage plan ended poorly, their hope lies in the new path created through their friendships made. In a conspicuous but rather dark castle, a maid turns to find Her Highness, the princess, returning, but on her face is an ominous smile. She immediately informs the staff she's headed to the temple, and for them to prepare for it. The maid gets ordered to follow once she's done, and she shows her enthusiasm. But she notices a ruby necklace that the princess wears left behind. In a sort of trance, out of character moment, the maid couldn't help but pick it up and admire it, until she notices the princess's eerie presence. That smile's enough to give you nightmares! This snaps the maid back to consciousness, but she drops the ruby and it shatters. Frantic about her mistake, the maid goes on about how such a valuable item shouldn't be destroyed easily. However, the princess seems less worried about it, but rather finds it amusing. She divulges that the ruby isn't real, and her crazed demeanor unsettles the maid even more. The princess continues on her cryptic talking, saying the realness of the gem is of no consequence. It can just be decided by her. She then takes a broken piece of the gem, proclaiming it to be the most valuable jewel that she possesses. As the red light again shines in the maid's eyes, her agreement is marked by her silence. Is this a sign of mind control? Anyway, the scene cuts to Aisha, who's fast asleep. Lord Rune appears, who feels the need to give Aisha a reward after successfully summoning Rune. So in her dream, Aisha finds herself with black hair. She wonders if it's Alyssa's appearance. But what troubles her most is her reflection in the mirror she found in the dream. A girl who eerily looks like the royal princess. Aisha's lost in thought about the recent dreams she had, particularly on the girl in the mirror. She wonders whether her devoted research on black magic due to Maryanne's use of it, as per Ashley, is the cause of her weird dream. However, Aisha realizes it's not the first instance of such a dream to occur. But before she can delve further into that, Lena informs her of an urgent, important meeting. A special Rheaton delegation had asked an audience with her family. The convoy reveals that the Edinburgh army had crossed the Rheaton duchy border, traversing the mountain passes and ransacking villages along the way. Immediately, they call for negotiation, but Edinburgh had a ridiculous demand: the eastern sea territory of Rheaton, along with all islands therein. Aisha's brother notes how this move aims to threaten the north end of Elmer, beyond Rheaton, as Edinburgh's well aware of their possession of the Diamond Island. Hence, the delegation requests military support, in alliance with the Elmer Empire, as well as envoys at the scheduled second Rheaton-Edinburgh negotiations 10 days ahead. They also present Rudian's feather, which Aisha recognizes as their promise for unconditional support. Knowing no contact's been made from Almina and the prince since returning to the principality, she knows it's serious in Rheaton. Her father, His Majesty, solely decides to aid Rheaton, surprising Aisha. He'll send 500,000 troops, but he's unsure of sending envoys at the negotiations. However, he agrees upon learning Edinburgh's mockery of Rheaton due to superior military might. Almost 1.2 million! Suddenly, horror overcomes Aisha's face upon recognizing Duke Arsène Rostov, now Commander-in-Chief of Edinburgh. Aisha's disbelief is apparent upon hearing the Rheaton delegation describe Arsène as a vile, merciless, bloodthirsty soldier. He personally led the Edinburgh troops through the mountains and on their attacks, sparing no one at the ransacked villages. And I mean, no one. Arsène, the little boy whose temperament couldn't harm a fly? Is this what he's become? Aisha believes something must be wrong with him. Anyway, since Arsène's the commander-in-chief of the Edinburgh army, he'll attend the negotiations. He's the one who accepted in the first place, arising doubts on his true intentions. He's also described as arrogant, an Edinburgh man who's wise and proficient in magic. So they decide to form the delegation around the Duke of Beltmore. However, as the rest was deliberating, Aisha couldn't stop worrying about Arsène's apparent fate. So she decides to take action, personally volunteering for the delegation. But her father shuts this down immediately. When Aisha argues it's to keep her promise with the Rheaton princess, His Majesty assures her their promised help is response enough, again denying her request and reminding her of her importance as part of Elmer's royal family. With that, he concludes the meeting and Aisha's brother approaches her for a talk. Although sympathetic to Aisha, her brother agrees with their father, saying that as with Aisha's intervention with his secret mission, no one wants to send a loved one to the battlefield. Aisha sees sense through his words, but she reveals Arsène was her only friend and was a kind person. However, he questioned whether he's the same, as per the video they saw. Still persistent, Aisha promises to avoid the battlefield, asks for Vion as an escort, and pleads her brother to trust her, all to help her friend, who she saw wincing in regrets. Isis resorts to drinking with Vion, who he chastises because the latter doesn't even drink, he just pours it for him. Anyway, Vion asks why he doesn't just convince Aisha to abandon her plan. His sister's pleas for trust moved him. He knows convincing her to stop is impossible, and convincing their father even more so. Hence, he drinks. Vion assures him that he'll protect the young princess, as he is an Elmerian knight. It's to Isis's amusement, as coincidentally, Aisha had asked for Vion too. With Vion again proclaiming his life's duty to protect the family, the men are assured their goals align: Aisha's safety. So the next time, all three went to see His Majesty, all to convince a father to allow his daughter her wish. And after a lengthy discussion, he finally relents. It seems Vion's final speech did the trick. This overjoys Aisha, who's thankful of her brother and Vion, the latter which she plans to thank personally. Renee then attends to her as she walks alone at the mansion grounds. Aisha also sees and greets another staff member, making her reminisce about Sir Rune. However, to her surprise, Renee collapsed. In fact, nearly all in sight are incapacitated. She looks around for the cause of this bizarre situation, and she sees an almost ethereal man sitting on the fountain, with water dripping from his feet as he greets Aisha a simple hello. The mysterious man's appearance bewilders Aisha, but for the moment, He calms her down, promising everyone's just been put to sleep by his powers. The purpose? Just to meet with Aisha. Firstly, Aisha notes that he already knew her. Second, the man's energy is like luminous. Maybe more. However, Nis appears out of nowhere, revealing it accompanied the mystery man whom it introduces as Lord Hanan, the spirit king of water. Aisha momentarily bows to him, but he asks her not to. He's been keeping his eye on her, noting how the talk about her beauty is true, until getting stopped by Nis. Aisha asks how he knew her, and Hanan reveals she's famous for being able to see spirits, which she expected. But Hanan might know the reason for her power, so she plans to ask him. Hanan notes she's still on guard, but Aisha correctly deduces he hates her for some reason, leading the two to a more serious conversation. The Spirit King's eyes are fixated on Aisha, though, puzzled by her demeanor when she guessed right. He does not like her. He was about to go reminiscing of the changing time since he was a layman, when he asked Aisha of her plan to summon Luminous. Of course, she admits to it, professing her promise to the spirit. Then Hanan flat out tells her to give up. It's the sole reason for his visit. Apparently, Aisha's magic power isn't enough. The possibility of channeling magic power by humans can be seen by spirits, and they call them vessels. Some are powerful, some are lacking, while others can have larger or smaller vessels containing said powers. Not only is Aisha lacking in magical power, her vessel is far too small for summoning a spirit. So Hanan asks her to send Luminous back to the spirit world instead. Vion comes to visit Aisha on the morning of their departure, and she asks him to join her. Apparently, she wants to show him something, the 2 magical stones. Vion points out they no longer contain any magical power, but Aisha says she kept them as a token of luck, and that's what they need right now. Vion calmly assures her she's all the luck they need. Aisha promises not to disappoint him, but that's not a possibility for him. Anyway, Aisha decides not to bring the stones, realizing it'll be a burden, so Vion suggests merging them. Since she doesn't know how to, while they're still in her hands, Vion touches them almost as if the two were tenderly holding hands. A flash of light, and voila! The stones merged into a smooth purple one, much to Aisha's amusement. However, as they look around, it seems the staff has taken this to be a rather romantic moment. With that, Aisha got frantic too and ordered Vion they should go. As he went on his way and she calmed down, she found herself with a lingering stare at him. Meanwhile, at the Edenbell army camp, they learn of Riotin's portal travel to Elmer. While some mock this move, others urge their commander Arsene to skip the negotiations and attack before Elmer comes into play. Rather indifferent, Arsene advises his men on patience. The negotiations will go as planned. They have another they need executed as discreetly as possible. Besides, he ominously says he's done enough to keep them in line, as bodies of the villagers his army attacked have begun moving as the poor survivors were burying them. Finally, Aisha arrives in Riotin and is swiftly greeted by the prince and princess. Mina in particular was happy seeing her, but time for pleasantries is short, as immediately they discuss reports on the Edenbell attacks. 3 areas were devastated, 2 towns and a village. Edenbell had attacked in quick succession, so the reinforcements arrived only to see the areas destroyed. However, a peculiar thing was reported. Those that died had somehow come to life. Apparently, this occurred when the villagers had been praying for the souls of the departed. In one case, as the bodies were being prayed upon to Allah, 28 were miraculously brought back to life. They suspected to be a divine spirit, but investigating that's difficult. The revived had no recollection from their deaths, except one. A little girl who'd lost their parents and hid had someone hold her hand and comfort her, and the words spoken to her seemed familiar to Aisha. What might they be? The scene changes to the negotiation meeting. Aisha has been seated first and is quite tense as Vion observed. Moments later, the Edenbell delegation arrives, along with Arsene, who surprisingly has a kind smile. His companion is the opposite, though, as he rudely mocks Aisha for forgetting her duties by attending the negotiations. But before she could snap back, it's Arsene who threatens him not to speak lest he cut off his tongue. So the meeting begins, with Edenbell noting Riotin's refusal and the latter wishing to renegotiate. They relent in giving Edenbell observational rights to sea currents. The Edenbell delegation assumes Elmer is in agreement and mocks the allied countries for their somewhat defeated stance and their alliance. But Aisha speaks up, noting Edenbell's following of the goddess Selena, a vengeful god feared by Edenbell, and the reason behind the country's pro-war stand. Aisha proudly declares Elmer cannot idly stand by while Edenbell endangers lives. Initially stunned, Edenbell representatives claim Elmer isn't there to negotiate, to Arsene's shock. Now it's Arsene's turn to speak. He rejects Aisha's notion of Edenbell being a slave to their god. What if someone's unafraid of the deity? He expresses his thoughts that the deity doesn't reward their faithfulness, but rather those that suffer are increasing. If the deity has a will, he thinks it's for those who are rich and well-fed. He even questions whether all this is just rumor in the name of their god. His opinion earns the shock of his men, but he orders them to be quiet. Aisha questions whether Arsene conveys Edenbell's true intentions, so he questions Ryoten's in return. Their offer of giving them observation rights is no less an invitation for naval battle. Although he gathers from the Ryoten prince's expression that it's not what he intended, so he gives them an ultimatum. 3 days to come up with a better negotiation before adjourning the meeting himself. Afterwards, Vion catches Aisha speaking with Lumi about healing the wounded, even after their tiring meeting. Calmly but sternly, he reminds her father and brother agreed to her request, not for her to tire herself out. So Aisha feigns drowsiness, seemingly agreeing to Vion's request to rest, leading him to comment how she's like the Crown Prince Isis. Well, she is his sister. Unfortunately, she still heads out as soon as he's gone. Meanwhile, we see Arsene next rushing into the forest with a note in hand. Arsene's men question his decision at the negotiation. Some are heavily pushing for a retreat now that Elmer's there, but again tells them not to make haste and leaves. He reaches a secluded part of the forest and someone's there. Apparently, it's not who he expects, and he immediately attacks, blowing the hood off the mystery figure. Pain is visible in his face. The note's handwriting was from his dear friend, an Edenbell princess. Eventually, Arsene realizes no one's there. It isn't a trap, and it's Aisha crying upon their fateful reunion. Arsene is still in disbelief, believing Aisha tricked him cruelly with the handwritten note. Aisha's still in pain, wondering how her old friend kept saying such things. Finally, she finds the courage to speak. She lets Arsene know that it's not a trick. If her writing had urged him to rush towards her, even if her old black-haired friend she knows in her memories is gone, she asks Arsene he should still be able to recognize her as she summons the strength to smile. Arsene's unsure of himself. He cannot fathom what Aisha said. With her words, memories flood Arsene's mind of how he always comforted Alyssa to sleep, of her anxiety of being compared to Maryanne, and at the time of his 3-year departure to the academy. As kids, he cared deeply for her. His only goal is to set Alyssa free. But then, it's not to be. He returns and Alyssa's already gone. So Arsene turned to God, praying for the downfall of the rich and vile and for mercy for the weak. And yet, nothing had changed. This made Arsene pledge his life to hard justice. He'll become the judge for those wrongdoers, even going so far as to pledge to burn down the land so that when he meets his old friend in the afterlife, he can give her a present of revenge, so her story wouldn't end in sadness. So that's why Arsene changed! Back in the present, with tears in his eyes, Arsene finally recognizes Alyssa and Aisha. Under the moonlight, the two friends finally enjoy their reunion, although Arsene's eyes are swollen from crying, much to Aisha's amusement. Finally, he's becoming like what she remembered. However, he notices a cut on Aisha's cheek from his attack earlier. Aisha isn't alarmed though, rather asking him if he's heard of her status now. As Arsene recounts how Aisha the princess is touted as the star of Elmer, his eyes widen in surprise and joy upon seeing Aisha wield healing magic on her wound. This leads Arsene to note how she got stronger in his absence. Now it's Aisha's turn to ask Arsene about his growth. Both of their smiles vanish as the titles he's earned surfaces. Devil and Merciless Killer. Aisha wonders what path he's taking now. Rather than answer, Arsene gets up, again commenting how Alyssa/Aisha had grown strong. Still, she pressed him for an answer, admitting only then can she take her next step towards avenging her past. This surprised Arsene, who comments that Aisha's already living with a good family. But she makes it clear, even Arsene knows the hardship she endured. However, he warns her of the danger of taking revenge against Edenbell. Instead, Arsene's about to tell her to wait, implying he'll do something, until something catches his attention. He realizes someone broke into the dorm, likely waiting when he'd gone. With limited time, Arsene can't explain further, but he does warn Aisha to have Elmer guard the open seas and not the islands in the East Sea, as Edenbell will look to attack Elmer itself. The negotiations with Ryoten are a distraction. He divulges that war is imminent, but assures Aisha Elmer will win and Edenbell will collapse, leaving her to question Arsene's planning. Again, he stays quiet and he turns to leave. But he backtracks, hugging Aisha and thanking her for the chance to give her a gift, before disappearing again. The next day, Arsene called an emergency meeting, saying they accept Ryotin's condition and will pull their troops accordingly. Though puzzled, the Ryotin prince is overjoyed and Aisha is sent home. On Elmer, Isis and his father discuss Aisha's exploits on her trip, but are curious about her warning to guard the open sea, adding to their anticipation for her return. Meanwhile, a group of Edenbell soldiers are revealed to be spying and plotting against Arsene. And they just got an order. As Arsene gets back to his dorm, he sees the footsteps of the intruders through magic. Regardless, he knows they didn't find anything. He sits and thinks back. He was the one who introduced this plan, and due to his reputation, the plan went through, particularly on a plot by his master to gain influence, away from weakening the imperial family. With Ryotin and Elmer involved, it's sure to turn into a fiasco despite his seemingly well-thought-of plan. Thinking of Aisha, he's relieved he didn't account for damaging Elmer in his plan, noting how luck's on his side. Meanwhile, Vian informs Aisha that they're close to Elmer. It's a quicker trip due to the urgency, but it's a bumpier ride. Unfortunately, Aisha's excitement for rest and home were shattered when she realized Vian's protective magic had been deployed. They're under attack! Vian urges her to remain in the carriage, but when Aisha learns dark magic was involved with the attackers, she can't help but destroy Vian's shield to protect their own troops by casting her protective magic on them individually. With her help, they chase the attackers away, but Vian's stare lets Aisha know it was unsafe what she did. But they smiled at one another. But a horrific turn of events causes that smile to fade, as Vian sees Aisha taken by a mystery figure. Even Lord Rune sees an ominously falling candle. Oh god, way to end on a cliffhanger! And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!